think we're live now.
Oh yeah.
I don't know though. I don't know how any of this shit works. I I think I fuck it up every time. And then every time I'm just live and I just been yapping about how I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
But it says you're live.
Oh. Oh,
I think we're live now.
I got the little webcam thingy in the top left. I figured out how to like
Discord.
do the overlay.
I think I
If I
fuck it
just
up every time.
Yeah, I just turned it off now.
I'm just live and I just been yapping about how I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Oh, you got it?
Yeah. I think I also accidentally clicked on Microsoft Word. So I think Word is gonna try to open.
Well, let's just see. Let's just see. There's no one in here yet. It's fine. The beginning of the, it's whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Let me. All right. I'm gonna start sending this. I'm gonna start sending this to people. And I'm just gonna say it's time.
It's true. It is time. What the fuck? Why am I struggling? There we go.
Oh wait, no. Self promo. That goes to somewhere else. You know what I just realized? All
What?
that I'm saying is live too. In
What?
the Who Am I page, I didn't even put my name.
Yeah, but like, do you really need that? Like, who really cares? You know?
True.
Do. Now, the funny thing to remember is I also just post these like unedited live as a video, so this is all going to be part of the video.
Oh, I know, I know. That's why I'm eating. That's why I started eating now.
Okay, good. All right, I'm ready whenever you are.
Um, Hit. Can you full screen now?
It's full screen. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Let's see. Who else do we send this to?
Go like it on my main account. Go like it on the fucking Slop Shop account. Somebody texted me what why can't I read? Jesus. What are you up to? I'm gonna just reply, I'm millin'.
Um. Okay. But I think we're about ready, right?
Yeah, I'm ready
Take a
whenever
couple
you are.
seconds and just like eat, like take a couple bites.
Yeah, I mean, but like, make sure that you get it on the mic. Make sure you get that picked up.
No, no, we really get in there.
Yeah. Don't fucking die.
I got the Publix spicy habanero lemonade. It's so good. It is so good.
I'm a little bitch. I can't handle spicy food.
This isn't even that spicy, honestly.
Yeah, I probably still couldn't. It's tough.
I actually used to have trouble with spice, and I just said, you know what, fuck it, we ball. I'm gonna just eat spicy stuff until I get used to it. And the day that I said that, the first thing I ate was probably the spiciest shit I have ever eaten.
That's hilarious.
Um, but it was delicious. I like hit this like boundary, I guess. Oh, I'm really low.
Um,
I mean, I don't think I can turn myself up too much more. That might be on your end.
I don't know how to do
I
that.
have all that muted.
I'm gonna just turn you up like really high in Discord and just suffer the consequences. I don't know how to fix that. Mike, I don't know shit about what I'm doing. What if I just put if I just put my OBS on stream and like have my stream fix that for me? Is that an option?
It could be, but you gotta be real careful with that.
Dog, if somebody wants to hack the slop shop, it'd be like that, I guess. It looks like I have Discord maxed out. Mike, chat, what are we thinking? Oh, might be capturing audio through your headphones. I'm not doing that because I'm not wearing headphones.
Oh,
Um,
hell yeah, we got the recursive images go. Okay, so, alright, if I am talking, let's see, where am I getting picked up? It should be Discord,
it's
but I'm not seeing
desktop
any
audio.
bars on Discord.
Yeah, I don't know why that's.
That is weird. It might be, it could be coming through desktop audio, potentially.
Yeah, it looks like it is.
So, I think, how high do you have me turned up in Discord?
Let's see. I'm so glad I did not have that on my main monitor from the last image. How do I check that? Profile? Nope.
This is how we do it on the slop shop, baby.
I'm gonna just delete that last picture I sent, and then we're just gonna crowdsource everything. How do I do this? I thought it was like I right click on you and then something, but
Let's see. It might be okay. Go to the little arrow in the bottom right. It might be you need.
you said bottom right, and I clicked the top left. What the fuck? Bottom right?
Yeah, I mean, we're just going to the sound settings for the most part. Because it might be something where it just Discord is also just low. If you, I guess if you right click me, you could turn me up physically from there. But if I sound good on your end, then you probably don't need to do that.
Might need to set Discord as a window capture instead of audio capture. Listen, I definitely do need Law's tech support. That's the only reason why I was even audible on the Expend to Draw podcast, and I didn't really understand anything he was telling me to do. I just clicked the buttons he told me to.
I mean, that's how tech support works.
That's so true.
Like straight up. Okay, so let's see. So you are currently. Ooh, I'm currently like almost spilling my drink here. If I do that, it's gonna get real sloppy.
Yeah. Oh. I don't know what that is. I don't want that.
So is Discord currently an audio capture or?
I thought it was, but it doesn't appear to be doing anything.
Yeah, I think that probably is for like XLR mics that are like big, like specialized mics, like different stuff like that. And since you're getting like audio from Discord, that window capture probably is the right way to go. So, you go plus on in the sources.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, I'm going at the speed of the stream.
Oh, that's fair. So I did that. I hit.
It's not audio input.
Oh.
You're gonna want to do window capture because audio input, like I said, that's for like mics and like separate mics that you like plug into and stuff.
Okay.
All right, I'm waiting for the stream to catch up. We're really sloppy too. Alright, so we got the window capture. Okay. Yeah, Discord.
The names are... Oh, fuck off.
Or Dick Suck. Oh. Yeah, Discord. Okay. And then you would just make, you would like click that, and then you would just make the window.
Discord.exe:@froned Discord.
Probably, yeah, probably that. I mean, we'll see how that sounds.
Capture audio. I don't actually want to capture anything else, just audio, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I don't know how that works because I haven't, I haven't actually done streaming in a long time. But I do recording, and so I know a lot of this stuff.
Oh,
but,
yeah, it looks like we're cooking now.
You could probably even turn off your cursor. I like to have it hidden because it's like, no one needs to see that.
I think it's kind of funny, so we're gonna keep doing it.
Oh, you know what? Actually, true. I am here for the bit. That is true. But if I got the go ahead, and we're good, then let's kick this off.
They say we fixed it.
Let's go!
Shout out to chat. Okay. Shout out to Mike. Even though Law didn't fix it, like in spirit, he was here for it.
Shout out to Law.
Shout out to the Law YGO. Shout out to his new Hermes video coming out soon.
Yeah, that deck was scary.
I've seen some of the video. The video is like, he's putting a lot of fucking editing into that. It looks good. And it looks like he's going in depth on it.
That's good. That's good. Going back over the deck profile that we did for the Mills Fargo deck that I played for the store regional. I realized I'd totally forgot to add a bunch of info, so maybe I'll even remember to do it this time, but hey, who knows.
Okay. Well, if you guys haven't seen, check out the video. It's up on the channel already. It has been described as what was it? It was, the vibes of this deck profile are absolutely peak. There was some hovering at one point. It was worth not getting home until 1 a.m. Unwatchable. So many great things have been said about this video. You got to check it out if you haven't.
Had someone say, "Wait, it's not pronounced Froned," and I said no.
That was
Josh, that was also
actually.
Peak. Yep. I had to correct him. But anyway, all right. So we got the testimonies, of course. But yeah, we got all right. So I guess we'll get it kicked off. We got the ultimate mill guide for Firestorm for you here, and we got all the mill cards that are currently in the game right now. Of course, just for the title screen here, the ultimate mill guide, everything you need to know about everything mill in Elestrals. Anyway, yeah. So if you're interested in mill, you're watching this video, you're watching this stream live, or you're watching it at a later date. We are in spirit filming from a Waffle House and cookout at the same time, but we're here to mill, we're here to grill. Let's get it popping. But before we get into the mill, gotta say, who am I? I don't matter. Let's keep going.
What?
I want okay. I've been playing mill for a long time. I've been really, really trying to theory craft and figure out how do all the mill cards individually work? How do they want to be played? If you're playing them in an optimal way, how are you using these cards? I've been doing that since Frostfall, and I've been making all sorts of different decks with the theory that I've been putting behind these. I don't know, I could be wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong, because if there is someone out there who's cooking mill as deep and as hard as I am, then
Mike, I promise you, nobody is going as deep and as hard as you are.
I mean, look, all I'm saying is if someone is out there and they're doing it like I'm doing, I mean, people are out there playing mill. That's not what I'm talking about. If someone has gone this deep into the theory of mill for this game as I have, I want to, I want to hear their thoughts too, because I can't be the only one saying stuff about this. That'd be crazy. But anyway, this is, you know, this was Monday. I won the store regional. The two goats right there with the mat.
And this wasn't just like a slacker store regional.
Yeah.
This finals was you versus the Law.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you played against me or Caleb, but Law did. He beat
Law. Yeah, Law
and
played
Caleb,
against
and then
in round one, and I remember hearing the match behind me, and the Law. I can't remember if it was game 1 or game 3 or game 2. But I know. I mean, I say this because I can't remember. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but Voltempest hit the field like in a turn, and then it was just over.
Game 2, I think. Yeah.
I think it was game 2.
Yeah, full of competent players on good decks, and you got undefeated first place.
Half of our locals is, and I'm not counting myself, because I haven't topped a premier or any of that. This was like my first big, event, accolades thing. Before this, it was like, oh shit, I went positive at the Cards HQ Open. Which honestly, legitimately though, because I did play Mills Fargo there as well. If I did play better and I labbed more on the Like a Void champ, I think I probably would have topped. Mm-hmm. If I locked in like I did on Monday, I think I would have topped. But I was making so many mistakes that day, it was bad. And I still came out positive, so I'm still happy about it. Either way. But yeah, so this is me.
Mill
Hummus is my
Mike.
favorite sport. I love the way it dribbles up and down the court. We keep it so fresh on the microphone. Let's get this over to the mill cards. So here's all the mill cards. Of course, we have I believe 9 total mill cards in the game right now. We have 6 Celestials and 3. We have 6 Celestials and 3 runes.
And we're talking about opponent mill, obviously.
Yeah, opponent mill, not self mill. Even though Avalanche does mill yourself, we're not looking at it in the context of self mill today. We're just looking at it in the context of how it mills your opponent when you play it in like opponent mill, like mill your opponent sort of deck style. Looking at Avalanche and Humbust in a way where you can mill yourself, I don't know how many people have seen this, but the Bean Soldier theory, I think this happened during the Swolax Elastronauts mill stream where they were playing Clash and they were playing the Hestia mill from that day, and there was like the revelation where they figured out that they can in Blistrix play Humbust, cunning offer it to their opponent's side. Because it triggers on their opponent's side, it mills them for 2, and then you go Avalanche and mill yourself for 7.
Humbust is not optional. So
yep, it is a mandatory. And you know what? Going into our first card, which is Humbust, I actually forgot to put that as a point. That because it's mandatory, make sure you never forget the effect. Because if you're in a tournament, and this has happened to me, you forget the effect, a turn or 2 later, cards in the deck have changed, you can't resolve that, you're probably getting a game loss or some other sort of punishment. So definitely make sure you remember that. But anyway, let's really get into it. So the first one is Humbust. Obviously, this one's been around for a long time. Humbust and Cinder were the original 2 millers in Elestrals. And the original Humbust didn't actually have the 4 times per turn. It had the same effect, though, without the restriction, and it was possible to mill someone completely out on the first turn with the OG Humbust. But that only existed in, like, prototype, so we're not even thinking about that right now. With the way that Humbust works, it's a 1/2, 1-cost fire. When a player casts a rune opponent must send the top 2 cards from their deck to their underworld. And you can only use this effect. Exactly. Mandatory. Thank you for putting that on the screen. They must send the top 2 cards from their deck to the underworld. The way this works, because for a lot of new players, they read an opponent. They think, okay, if I play the rune and they control the Humbust, then they will mill 2 cards off the top of their deck because I'm playing the rune, and now they're my opponent. But it's the opponent of the Humbust is the one that mills the cards. So when any player casts a rune, the opponent of the Humbust, just to get that out of the way, they're the ones that mill the cards. 2 off the top of the deck. Because of the way that this card works, every deck runs like a minimum of 15 to 17 runes at a minimum, with 22, 24 at the absolute maximum.
Yeah.
For some decks. Every deck is running a critical mass of runes to see in their deck over the course of a game. So Humbust, in that way, both players have roughly probably about an average of 39 to 41. I don't even want to say 40 because of the variance, but the probably around, we'll just say 40. We'll just say about 40 runes between the 2 of them.
Yeah.
And because of that, you're able to consistently mill with Humbust because both players are able to trigger it. However, when you are playing into it, you, the player that controls the Humbust, it's not going to be an efficient effect unless you are only, say, playing 1 cost runes, which there's not that many. Most of the defensive runes are going to be 2 cost or more, either up front or through the costs of the cards. We'll get into that later. We have a whole Humbust math breakdown about how that works.
Yeah.
On the next page. So to put that off for a second, you can use Humbust in a mill list where the purpose is to play the Humbust and play your runes in a way where you are trying to maximize the triggers. As you can see on that 4th line here in this slide, if you trigger it all 4 times every single turn, that's 40 cards in everyone's deck. It has to be 40. You can't play more, no more than less. Both players start with 5 cards to start with in their hand. So if you're going first and you get that 4 trigger, that's 8 cards out of their deck. That's 13 cards total out. They draw a card for turn. 4 more triggers is another 8, so that's another 9 total out for the second turn. Another 8 for your turn for those 4 triggers. Another 9 for theirs because it's the 4 triggers plus the draw. We're not assuming that they play a rabbit. We're not assuming that they draw any cards. So that's 4 turns. And in those 4 turns, that's 1 card left in their deck at the start of your 3rd turn. 39 cards. If they do any searching at all, that is automatic 40, 0 cards left in their deck at the start of your 3rd turn on turn 5. At that point, you can just pass. If you don't, then obviously in this scenario, this hypothetical, where you are able to trigger the Humbust a maximum amount of times per turn, you're going to trigger Humbust again and then pass, and then you win because now they attempt to draw a card from their deck, they can't, and they lose.
Yeah.
So if you can do that, if you can maximize the Humbust trigger, you can win very quickly. You can win even quicker. Like you double the speed if you have 2 and triple the speed if you have 3. However, the problem with that theory as well is, we're looking at the ideal scenario, but how does it work in practice? To make that work in practice, you need enough spirits to afford the runes, and you need enough runes to meet the triggers. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to hit that win condition in that time frame. So all of the good defensive runes are, Gorgons, PTA, Shield, um, Tsunami is a one cost, but of course it's conditional, where like a Galaxy and Eddy, these things aren't going to get stopped by it. It'll still trigger the Humbust, but that's a different story. These 2-cost protective runes are inefficient when you're playing them as a way to trigger the Humbust and not just to protect it and keep it on the field over the course of a game. If you're playing things like Nog, Drops of Leaf, Circle the Sky. Circle the Sky is 1, but you need 2 to make it work because you need to pay for the card with 1 and then move another one to the other location. It is still using 1 to spend on it, so it is still relatively efficient, but needing the 2 and having to get that set up can be relatively difficult depending on your deck composition, but whatever. Either way, Nogs, Drops of Leaf, all the standard counter runes, and a bunch of different other 2 costs, like Argo. These are going to be inefficient to play if you are trying to use them to actively mill out your opponent, because you're spending too many spirits too quickly in order to try and mill your opponent. That math, like I said, we'll get to that on the next page, and show you why that is the case. But because that is the case, the best use for Humbust currently that I can tell is that you have it on the field as a way to punish your opponent for playing their runes into your board. So turn 1, you plant a Humbust, you set 1 or 2, pass. Your opponent takes a turn, they drop a guy and set a back row, attempt to run over the Humbust, you protect it with one of your counter runes, and then your turn comes back around, you start dropping 5s. And because you keep dropping 5s, now those are the threats on the board, and your opponent should be trying to deal with that first. Because if they deal with the Humbust first, then you still have a board of threats that can deal with their board, ideally. If they do deal with your 5s that you're dropping, then they're also getting punished for doing so with by having their deck be milled. And because they're paying for those runes, the value on your mills at that point is basically infinite, because now they're paying for your mills. You're not spending anything. And that is the only way that you can really, really make Humbust always 100% efficient, is by making your opponent pay for the runes to trigger the Humbust.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and especially if they're paying for, like, and this is the 5th point on this page. It's the opponent's mental. When you use a Humbust and you just mill their deck over and over and over again, they lose their Penterror, they lose their Twindra, they lose their Pig Ascensions, they lose their 2-cost guys, they lose their Den, they lose their Majursa. It is frustrating, because that's the game plan, right? Is you want the big guys, and so in their mind, the way to deal with that is use your removal on it. I don't care if I have to EQ this Humbust, I'm gonna do it. But now they're paying 2 spirits to out a 1-cost guy that is a 1/2 body. The stats are not good on Humbust, unfortunately.
And they're getting milled if they EQ the Humbust.
And they're getting milled because the Humbust is on the field properly enchanted. It sees the rune, it is going to mill them. And when that happens, like, on one hand, it does feel bad that you might be losing your Humbust, so you have to have another one. But on the other hand, I mean, that's removal that is now gone. It's not going to be used for your guys that are dealing with their board, like actually interacting with their board. And you can continue to pressure them because of that. You can't really pressure in the same way with a Humbust, because it is such a small body. Even, sometimes I'll play Humbust and attack with an Argo set in case they play a 5 and then try to drop it and punch over. Because if that is the case, then I can go Humbust, or I can go Argo on the attack declaration, get out a Necklace, mill my opponent for 4, and out their guy at the same time. I mean, I'm paying a lot for that, but the value is still pretty decent overall. Because I'm still coming out on top in the combat, their board is going empty, and I can continue to play by dropping guys on the next turn.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, the ideal use, like I said, you want to use it as a way to punish your opponent. You don't really need to be playing into it actively to get the mills. It is not really going to be efficient to play like that, because in order to do that, you need card advantage and you need accessible spirits, which means you're going to be needing to play Nog. If in Firestorm format, you're going to be needing to play Hestia so you can special out a Smokey and get even more card draw so that you can get cards into hand. You doubly so need that card advantage because of the way that Hestia plays, and so you need all of that stuff. Hestia plays are expensive, so you need ways to get recovery, so you need Hearth, you need Ambrosia. For some lists, sometimes, on some occasions, you can even justify Cornucopia if you're doing a Humbust Mill strategy because of how expensive it is, and because Cornucopia also does draw one card. That is why you would play Humbust as a defensive punishing option rather than an active milling option. But to go into the math, we'll look at the efficiency math here. So if we're looking at win conditions, right? 20 spirits are what both players start out with. In order to win the game, in the standard, like in the typical way, you force your opponent to spend past their 20 spirits, right? If we're equating that to cards in deck, so if we're saying, like, if we're looking at the mill win con and saying 40 cards in deck equals 20 spirits, or players start with 5 cards in their hand, so really it's a 35 card starting hand.
Yeah.
That means that 1 spirit in your spirit deck equals roughly 2 cards in their deck, or 1.75 cards in their deck, which, I mean, you can just round up to 2, honestly. Yep, this is the part where I told them to pull up the Subway Surfers for people who kind of zone out at this part. This is math. But we have the chart here, with the efficiency chart, right? On the top in that red bar, that is going to be the number of Humbusts that you have on the field. The white vertical bar is the spirit cost of the rune. At 1 spirit, because 1 Humbust mills 2 cards, 1 spirit runes go even on efficiency. Even is fine. Even is good. Like, ideally, at a baseline, you want to be going even on your spirit investment. You know what's insane? I'm actually watching the Subway Surfers. It's so sick. Anyway, you want to be going even on that spirit investment, because otherwise you're going to be getting behind in your own spirits. If you're overpaying on your spirits, it's going to be harder for you to be able to spend those spirits later to mill out your opponent. You can make that up with the Humbust on the side of you getting the triggers off of your opponent playing runes. But in this way, if you're playing the runes, ideally with 1 Humbust, you want to be playing 1 cost spirit runes if you're milling your opponent. At 2 cost spirit runes, you're going 2 spirits for 2 cards out of their deck. And obviously, if you're playing a Rise from the Ashes, and you're playing it as a way to mill your opponent, you better hope that they're, like, basically out of cards in their deck, because otherwise you're way, way overpaying on spirits.
God, I punted that game earlier today in call with you, where I didn't Rise from the Ashes something.
But that was Rise from the Ashes, paying off a Salashade to cast a Cinder and then mill them out from there, and then pass and then win. It's a little bit of a different scenario.
Yeah.
Than, like, because, like, in that scenario you're playing the Rise for a. You're not. I don't think, like you said, weren't even playing Humbust in that list.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a completely different use case. But, like, if you are playing Humbust, like a Rise from the Ashes in this, like a Humbust mill, the efficiency on that is god awful unless you literally have all 3 of your Humbust out, and and even if you do, you're still only going even. It's not great. Ideally, you want to be playing the cheap runes. You want to be getting as many runes as possible. And if you're playing 2-cost runes, ideally you want to have 2. 2 Humbust is going to make that a lot more efficient for you to mill out your opponent. But that is basically the gist with the efficiency chart here. There are the 3 mill runes, of course, that just blow the efficiency out of the water for 1 Humbust. On their own, I think it's Pandora's Box and maybe Golden Apple are not great on the efficiency unless you have a Humbust, but Avalanche, of course, it's a 1 spirit, mill your opponent for 3, so that's still efficient in your favor. And then if you play it with Humbust on the field, that turns into 5, 2 is 7 cards, and 3 is 9 cards. So if you get 3 Humbust out on the field, go 3 Avalanche back to back to back, that's a lot of cards out of the opponent's deck. I'm pretty sure that's, 9? That's, no, 3, 7, 21 cards, I think, out of the opponent's deck per Avalanche.
It's 3 times 3 for the Avalanche itself.
Yep.
And then 6 runes
3.
each time.
So
yeah,
that's
so
18
it'd be
plus 9.
18 plus 9, 27.
Oh, so 27. So I think I counted. No, that might have been 2 Avalanche. I don't know. My math was off in that scenario, but I know that's because I didn't prepare it beforehand.
It's because you were watching Subway Surfers.
I actually true.
You got him.
Surfers. This is how life is with ADHD. I swear. Either way, all those mill runes. Really, Avalanche is the only one that always efficient. Because you have to discard a card from hand. Because you need that card advantage, like Golden Apple is going to hurt you, unless we'll get into it later. Either way, the mill value becomes infinite when your opponent plays runes, and that's what you really want. Is you want to play, like I said, play Humbust as a way to punish your opponent. So before we move on, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm personally not the biggest Humbust believer, but I mean, you've seen most of my mill lists do not include a Humbust. But that's because I go for more active milling than like passive milling, like you're saying is the right way to use the Humbust.
Yeah.
But you won something with it and I didn't, so clearly you're cooking more than I am.
I mean, because the mill list you were playing was a Hestia mill, you can play it as like a way more active mill where you don't play Humbust. Whenever I play, like, especially like games like this, I always play the greedy option, where I really, really do want to, I want to maximize as many of the mills as possible, and if I can drop a Humbust, have it stick around for a turn, and then just keep getting value off of my opponent, I want that. That's greed incarnate. Like, ooh, that's good mills. Good milling. I'm out on the porch and I'm milling, baby. I'm milling these steaks. Ooh, I love it. But anyway, that's why I play it for the most part. Like, it is going to get you value over the game, and especially like Hestia mill versus like a Mills Fargo. It is a completely different game style, like play style as well. Yeah. So Humbust in that list is going to, I think, go a lot further than if you just play it in a Hestia mill, which you still can, obviously. Like, Hestia mill, you can still put it in there. But Humbust, I even think it's still good in there as well. It's still punishing your opponent. Mm-hmm. But you don't necessarily need it in that style of list, because Hestia does have a lot of ways to actually re-trigger Cinder, which is what we'll get into right now. Cinder also has like a math efficiency chart, but it's a little simpler, because rather than runes as the way to uniquely trigger it. It's just when it receives a fire, of course. And when it receives one fire, that's one spirit, um, it mills for 3. So if we're looking back at like the Humbust efficiency math, where 20 spirits equals 40 or 35 cards in deck, one spirit equals 2 cards. If one spirit is getting you 3 cards out of the opponent's deck, that's automatically like a good value. And that is the case for Cinder. It is an efficient milling option, but it's not consistent because the way that you have to trigger it is by making it receive a fire, whether that's you enchanting it for turn, like for a normal enchant, which is something that you might do. It might be casting a rune like Hearth. If you Hestia's Hearth, you can go pay for the Hearth off of the Cinder, use the Underworld Fire Spirit to enchant to the Cinder, effectively making milling free because you're not even spending Spirit in that situation. You're reusing one that you already have on the field and then paying for one out of the Underworld. So in that case, you're getting like really, really good value. You're only going down a card.
God, imagine if you had a Humbust on board when you did it too.
Then you would be milling 5, and that's what I was saying, right? Is like I get really greedy. That sort of interaction is what I live for. But with Cinder, the hard part is getting those cards that let you re-trigger the Cinder, getting the altar, getting the Hearth, getting the Kinleo, getting Exalt Flare if you're playing it, getting getting a Circle. Ideally, you're not using your normal enchant unless your opponent just can't do anything, and then you can just punish them by re-enchant Cinder, punch for 2, or something along those lines. Because Cinder, just like Humbust, the stats aren't great. They're better. It's not a 1/2. It's a 3/2. It is bigger, but in a game in Alestrals, at least for since the game has been out, the metagame for Alestrals has typically revolved around like a 5s tempo sort of play style.
Yeah.
And when every deck is running, a critical mass of 5s guys, then Cinder isn't really able to keep up unless you can protect it. And protecting it, unless it's with like an altar, is pretty much it's pretty much always going to be less effective than if you are protecting a Humbust, because the Humbust will still get value off of you protecting with your counter runes. The Cinder, unless it's an altar and you're nexusing to the Cinder, is not going to get that same value. You're paying to protect it on the field, and just so it can stick around, either because you hope you can re-trigger it or because you know you can. And if that's the case, or if you think you can ascend it on the next turn into something better.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, you're getting less value out of it. So the mills themselves are going to be more efficient from the Cinder. Seeing the ways to trigger it is going to be less efficient or less consistent because there are just less ways to do that.
Yeah.
And the other issue, of course, like with the normal enchant to it, is that you're not developing your board at all unless you have, I think, specifically a Volcanic Forge to give it +1/1.
Mm-hmm.
You're not developing your board, so if your opponent goes like Viserys, and it's still a 3/2, and you don't have a way to protect it, like I don't know. I hope you're milling at like light speed because otherwise they are going to out-tempo you like really, really quickly. Aside from that, there's not too much more to really say about Cinder itself. It plays really well in Hestia style decks because it doesn't have a casting trigger condition. It's just whenever it receives one, so you can get it out you can get 1 or 2 out really quickly. You can use Nexus effects to re-trigger them. Like we said, Hearth exists, so that's another way to re-trigger it. especially in that list. Like you were saying, you don't even play the Humbust. It's just like how many times can I re-enchant Cinder? That is still effective because like we have the chart at the bottom, we have triggers, like the number of triggers that you re-trigger Cinder, and how many total mills that is over the course of a game. If you mill, if you can re-trigger a Cinder 12 times, that does win you the game, like on its own. That's not easy to do. It's not consistent, but if you can do that, it is extremely efficient. 12 triggers from a Humbust is three total turns of triggers. And that's possible, but that's not realistic in that sense either. That has to get spread out over an even longer period of time.
Yeah.
So the fact that this can essentially outvalue a Humbust in one turn off of 3 triggers is really good, because it is actually possible to re-trigger a Cinder 3 times in one turn with Altar, Hearth, Kinleo, re-enchant normal, like normal re-enchant for turn. Like these things do make it possible to re-enchant Cinder for that like high value milling. And so for that reason, like Cinder is still a desirable miller in these like Hestia style lists where you can take advantage of the re-triggers, because it is efficient in terms of like spirit cost to mills. Anvil as well. Yeah, that's a great one. Anvil is a really, really good option for that as well, because I'm just going to throw a scenario out there. You know, you have a fun guide on the board, not the new one that they just revealed today. You have the OG fun guide on the board, and you have a Cinder. You equip an Anvil to the fun guide. Your opponent runs into it. That spirit goes to the Cinder and re-triggers it. And then you go Hearth, using that spirit to re-trigger the Cinder. You have another Hearth. You do the same thing the third time, and then you alter off of that to your Hestia that you still have on. It has a spirit. Now that spirit goes from the Hestia to the Cinder, and you re-trigger it again, protecting it from the battle and from the next battle, and you re-triggered it 4 times in one turn for 12 cards out of their deck. Who knows what turn it is? Half their deck is gone, and that's just one Cinder that got all that value. That is like incredible value, and that's why Cinder is like still really good. Even if you don't tend to play it in a lot of lists, because it is really specific in how you have to trigger it.
So the reason I personally like playing Cinder is that I don't play mill as a small guy thing. I play mill as a big guy thing. And I know that we're going to get to her eventually. But yeah. Cinder, it does something on my way to climb up into a bigger guy, whereas Humbust doesn't, which is why I love Cinder. If you are planning to like special something out with Hestia and then immediately ascend over it, Cinder's the guy. Yeah,
I mean Cinder is a really good card for milling, and like I was saying, like especially with like the Hestia mill, like the list that you were using that we'll see later, like you can play it like that and get a ton of value. I mean the biggest issue is really just not seeing it, honestly, because it is only 3 cards out of your deck. It is entirely possible you just do not see it, but you see other ways to get into your bigger guys. So if you can get to your other guys, that's fine, but that's one of the issues that Hestia Mill does have, is not being able to see your guys, needing to be able to special cast them out with the Hestia effect. So if you're like missing any of the pieces, that can actually hurt you in the long run, because in that style of deck you really do want to mill as quick as possible rather than use it as a slow burn to punish your opponent. But yeah, also, yeah, we did consider going to a baseball game to do it live there. That would have been really funny, but
yeah, so next mill video live stream.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Where we revisit all of this and see how things have changed and how the new Humbust and Humburst fit into the equation. Yeah, we'll see. But we'll move on to the next one. So the next one is Lumaru. This one's a lot more simple. Among the 1-cost millers, this is in theory, potentially the highest consistency, highest efficiency of all. Because for, Humbust, you got to pay for the runes to get the triggers. Your opponent could pay for them as well, and that like increases the value like dramatically. But if they just decide to not play into it, then it's not going to get that value. And they could do that, of course. They could choose not to. That could cost them as well, or maybe they just have guys on the board and don't need to. Either way, that could be the case for Humbust. For Cinder, you might just not see the ways to re-trigger it. So it's like, well, if you don't have the ways to re-trigger it and you can't afford to re-enchant it, then it's just going to hit the board, it's going to mill those 3, and then it's going to sit there. For Lumaru, it is a 5-2. It is the best stat line of all the guys that we've seen so far, which means it is a threat on the board by itself. Because it is just a 1-spirit guy, and it triggers off of destroying an Celestial in battle, that means, in theory, Celestials get 1 attack per turn until there's like an artifact that says, oh, this can attack twice or whatever. Every single turn, if we're assuming that our opponent plays a guy every single turn, and the Lumaru can just punch over it every single turn, and we're not even like we're just punching and we're not even thinking. Every single turn, that's for 1 spirit, you're milling 3. So that is technically the most efficient you can get off of a single spirit, not reusing one, not re-enchanting, or paying for something off for something else. Like for specifically 1 spirit throughout the entirety of the game, assuming that it sticks, that 1 spirit can generate 3 mills pretty much every single turn. So that does make Lumaru like hyper consistent in that aspect. The fact that it is a 5 also is really just a good thing for mill decks too, because like we saw with Cinder and Humbust, those stats are not very good on their own. Like they're like 1-2 is terrible and 3-2 is better but not great. So a 5-2 is actually really, really good. And that kind of multiplies as well when you that's also true. It is Peem. That's Peem Gleam. When you pair it with something like Humbust, where you can land it on the field the turn after you play a Humbust, and then use the Lumaru to push, you sort of force your opponent into a situation where it's like, well, I let them run over my guy with the Lumaru? It's a 1 spirit for 1 spirit, because maybe they're not playing mill. They're not thinking on an axis of how many cards are in my deck. They're thinking, how many spirits do I have to play the cards against my opponent, like you would in a standard matchup of like 2 tempo decks going up against each other. You playing on a different axis on a mill deck get the opportunity to force your opponent into this thought process of, do I let my opponent run over my guy, where I'm losing my guy on the field, I'm losing that tempo that I had in having that champ galaxy in attack, or whatever the case may be, and then they mill me for 3, or do I protect it with one of my counter runes, like I play a Gorgons to stop the battle, or I play a shield to put it back into their hand, but still mill 2 because they have the Humbust on the field. That is probably the biggest combination of things that you could be using in regards to mill. The Humbust being backed up by threatening bodies that you could, in theory, drop every turn. And Lumaru being a miller in that regard puts really high value on Lumaru itself. And also the fact that it is a battle miller, so to speak, when you run over their guy, it destroys their guy in battle, then it mills the top 3 cards from their deck. Playing defensively, that also plays really well with cards like Argo, Breeze of Zephyros, P-Gleam if you can re-trigger it during the battle phase.
Sorry,
Zeus,
who?
Demeter, Peem.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's what I said. I said Peem.
Okay.
Yeah, Peem. Yeah, little Peem. But being able to use that stuff defensively when it's their turn, attacking, say, into the Lumaru, being able to protect it, win that battle, and then trigger that mill on their turn, even though you're in that situation paying for runes to protect the Lumaru, that Lumaru is still sticking to the board, ready to pressure them on the next turn. You're getting the value out of that mill, which already has been established that 3 cards for 1 spirit
It's good efficiency.
ahead of the curve. It is efficient. But in this case, it's even a little more. It's a little different than the way that you would calculate things for Cinder. Where Cinder, you have to use a spirit to re-enchant or to trigger the effect. So that is a spirit, like a new spirit from somewhere else. In this case, it is the same spirit for Lumaru. So the more that it can trigger, the more value that it gets over the course of the game while it's still on the board, because that one spirit, instead of one spirit getting 3, that one spirit is getting 3, and now it's gotten 6, and now it's gotten 9, now it's gotten 12, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And that value does stack on itself over the course of the game the longer a Lumaru exists on the board. So, I mean, there's not much more to say than that. I mean, it is a 5 that mills, and the fact that it mills 3 is good. And there's really not much more that you really need to know, except, like, the battle tricks do help it out a lot. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I've played Lumaru in regular, like, non-mill decks and mill decks. I'm a big fan of his. I think that it is a really good card, especially in a deck more like Mill's Fargo, where you are operating on both axes at the same time. Mill and, like, regular 5s-esque combat. It makes your opponent, like you said, interact with you differently, because, you know, my outs for Lumaru, in my mind, aren't going to be the same things that I'm going to try to do to out a Humbust or something. So it really it diversifies your ability to mill, which can be really important, and it helps put pressure up, because, like, if you let your opponent just take over the board state, it doesn't matter how many counter runes you draw. Eventually, you're going to run out of counter runes, and they're going to walk over your Humbust.
Yeah.
So, having Lumaru up to, like, help clear the board, or, like, at least keep it even, can be really important.
Yeah. And like we saw with the first 2 Elestrals, like the Humbust and the Cinder, like, the biggest issue that Mill had to begin with, at least in the first 2 sets, was that their stats were just not good.
Yeah.
In a tempo good statted Elestral based game, having guys that don't have good stats is going to make it just infinitely harder for you to try and win through milling. Having a 5 statted Elestral, like a good statted Elestral, goes like miles for the deck, for any deck playing mill, really, because of the amount of pressure that it can put onto the board by itself. But outside of mill decks too, and I think this is something that we realized and maybe even discussed at the Dallas Open, because I think there were more people playing solar decks. There was a lot of Tornigen, I remember.
Yeah.
People were playing Lumaru, and they were using it as a way. They were taking advantage of the Lumaru effect, because I think throughout the game, people were really averaging like 1 or 2 triggers from a Lumaru if they saw it, if I recall. That might be a bit of a stretch, but I'm pretty sure that was about what people were seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to mill 6 cards out of someone's deck, I mean, that's over 10% of someone's deck. I think it's specifically 15 cards out of someone's deck if you mill 6. That is a fairly decent chance to mill something meaningful.
Yeah,
and
like if you can mill a Viserys,
not,
or like an Argo target, or even something like an Ambro, there's only so many of those in deck, and so like thinking, oh, if you just hit a random 5, whatever, they still have a bunch of 5s in there. There are important parts of your deck,
Mm-hmm.
and so even if mill is just like an ancillary, hey, it happens, whatever, it can still be pretty disruptive to your opponent.
Yeah, like sometimes you get lucky and you mill the EQ or the resting or the rise, or you mill,
Like a void.
the like a void. You mill the full moon. Like there's so many in Yu-Gi-Oh terms like garnets, like engine requirements that you have to play for certain cards in your deck so that you can get the big combo play to work. So you get the big guy out onto the board. So you get um the you get that big play, but you need the card that is less effective if you see it in hand. You know, if that card gets milled, then it's like if Lumaru attacks and it mills Necklace, Lyre, Torch of Hestia, and you're playing Fire Artifact, all of your Argos are offline.
Yep. All of your
Unless you
hefts
see
are offline
Reforge
too.
or like you're playing a what is it, Rama Cole Champ? Like,
you got different issues
like,
if you're playing that guy.
I'll say this about Rummacle Champ. I like it for one thing only. Getting the torch back and throwing it on it for one spirit is it's basically like it makes it a 6. I think that's cool. Outside of that, I think I could take it or leave it.
I think you're just better off with Reforge.
Rummacle I mean, you literally are. But I mean, if for the only thing I really like to do with Rummacle Champ, I think that's it.
Yeah.
But either way, that's Lumaru. Like it is pretty straightforward. So, hopefully that explains like the theory behind the 1 cost guys. Going into the 2 cost guys, we have the first
best
one,
miller
Salashade,
in the game.
the goat, the best miller like in the game. Not the most powerful miller. We'll get to that one. But it is the most efficient and the most consistent miller that you can be playing in the game, bar none. For 2 spirits, every single turn, players want to be playing Alestrals. They want to be dropping Alestrals. They want to be putting Alestrals from their hand or other places onto the board. Like if they are not doing that, then they are not establishing a tempo. Without that tempo, you're probably just losing anyway. If your opponent is playing Alestrals, they are getting their cards milled. If you are playing Alestrals and you're playing Alestrals, you are milling their deck. If you special cast, you're bonus milling. I mean, if this thing goes off 12 times, you win the game, and by the time it hits the board, I mean, it's probably only 11 or 10 times, if we're being honest.
It's going to trigger once just on its own cast.
Yep. It does see itself get cast. For each guy that you mill out of their deck, not rune, but like each Alestral, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I've had a Salashade that has hit 27 attack.
God.
And at that point, there's really nothing that can get over that, with maybe the hard exception of a Volclips with the lunar phase that gives it an attack for each lunar phase in the underworld. If they have like all of them there, like that is the only way that you could potentially get over something that big, without using an effect to swap the stats or to turn it. Because while the effect is extremely powerful, while both effects are extremely powerful, it does have the downside of being a base 3/3. And because it doesn't get +1/1 for each attack and defense, that means it is going to have a weakness to very specific cards. Champ Galaxy, Eddie, Spectaris, Cockatoodle, Lyre. There's actually a lot of different ways that you can potentially out a Salashade. There's also ways to protect it in that same vein, like PTA on an Eddie being dropped to try and out a Salashade. That drops it from a 4 to a 2. Now it can't punch over. If they go Champ Galaxy, you can go, Argo Liar to flip it back, and then you can keep the Liar on there, turn it to defense, and now it's like an 18 defense guy. I mean, that's pretty cool. It's not like you should be attacking with this anyway, right? Because the way that the effect works, it punishes your opponent whenever any Celestial hits the board. So if you are going to pressure them, if you're going to put them on a clock, then you ideally don't want to be attacking with it, because if you attack into one of their guys, if they have a Gorgons, they can hold the Gorgons until the battle phase, suppress the Salashade, and now it's back to a 3/3. If they have a shield, now they're going to punch it back to your hand. It's a 2 cost, so that's not inherently easy to get out unless you have other guys on the board that can stick around until your next turn. That can be devastating to your game plan as well. So typically speaking, the way that you should be playing Salashade is by not attacking unless the attack is guaranteed. Because you want to be triggering its effect. Its effect is, like I said, the most efficient, most consistent Miller in the game. People have to be playing their Celestials in this game if they want to be effective. So the longer it sits on the board, the more Celestials get played, the less of their deck exists in the end. I don't know what else there is to say. I think I kind of segued into like each one of these parts on accident, like pretty decently. So if you have anything else to add?
I mean, it's just this is the end all be all of Mill. Like when I play Mill, I'm playing to get Salashade out. She is just so cool. Everybody's on Champ Galaxy these days, but you better draw it. You better draw it and hope I don't have a counter rune, because if not, she is just going to keep punishing. And I love that. Now, we do see that it is a Fire Lunar. We would prefer to be in Fire Solar, but, Lunar's whatever. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Calf Mel heals both, so at the end of the day, is it really that big of an issue?
If you're playing heal Mill, you're cooking.
I mean, you actually sort of can. That's the cool part. But I don't think I put that list today. I don't think that list would particularly be good, but hey, whatever. Either way, Solid like this is like if you're playing Mill, like this is unless you're playing a very different deck that we can get to as well. This is your big payoff. This is what you want to hit the board and stick around for as long as possible. The same kind of idea as Lumaru, one spirit being able to get like a bunch of value over the course of a game by running over guys. This card being just 2 spirits that, the turn it comes down, it immediately gets value. Opponent's turn comes around, they drop a guy, it immediately gets value. That's 6 cards out of their deck for 2 spirits. So now you've gone completely even. The only time that this card ends up not being efficient is if it gets outed, like if they EQ, if they immediately PTA it right on the cast. If they have ways to just immediately kill it the turn after it hits the board or the turn it hits the board, that is when this card is not efficient. But that is typically more rare than not. So when it hits the board, it should at least stick around for, ideally, at least 2 turns. Because I know I've gotten unlucky with this where I drop the Salashade and the next turn comes around and it just gets EQ'd 3 games in a row. That literally has happened to me before.
Yeah.
And it sucks, but I mean, what are you going to do? This is the Mill boss monster for now. It might change in live stream. We'll have to see. But even in live stream, I would wager that this effect is still extremely powerful. Being late is fine. I mean, this is YouTube stream, so you can just go back and check everything out. Everything's getting. Maybe I would start from 10 minutes in or something. It's all good. Um, upgrades. Oh, you mean for live stream upgrades? I mean, we'll get there. I mean, we haven't gotten to the decks yet. We're just talking about the theory behind each card. But we just finished with Salashade. We'll go on to Humburst. And of the 2-cost Alestrals that mill, this is going to be the
Bad.
most interesting one of all of them. Objectively speaking, it is going to be the worst of the 3 of the 2-cost milling Alestrals. It is going to be the worst because the way that the card functions and the fact that the stats are also not good. Salashade, of course, is a 3/3, so the base stats are actually a little bit worse on the Salashade. But the Hum Burst, because the Salashade gets more attack over the course of the game, it doesn't matter. Like, that stat is going to get big, and that does matter. For the Hum Burst is a 4/3. There's really not many cases where you can take advantage of this very well. So the Hum Burst as a guy that could stick on the board is not a way that you should be playing this card. It does mill efficiently. 6 is a lot of cards, especially like for 2 spirits. That's even on the spirit math. The 20 spirits to the 40 cards in deck, like that is like along the line. That is efficiency. That is efficient for 2 spirits. The problem is with other 2 spirits, unless it's like a rune that you're paying for a Hum Bust, those spirits typically stay on the field in some capacity. So like if you use a Altar of Stars to Nexus from a Hestia to a Cinder, that second Fire Spirit that gets Nexused to the Cinder can be used for something else. So it's not just going to waste on there. Sometimes it does, and that's okay. But most of the time you're able to take advantage of that in some way by using, then like you go Hestia's Hearth, re-trigger the Cinder, and then use that Spirit to pay for a shield to bounce their guy back to hand so you keep the Cinder for another turn. Like that's a thing that you can do that you can't do with Humburst because of the way that it works. It's a 4/3, 1 fire, 1 solar. That when you can disenchant fire solar from this Humburst to force an opponent to send the top 6 cards from their deck to the underworld. And like I said, 6 cards is a lot. For 2 spirits, that is efficient. It's just barely efficient. It's not value, but it's like you're not wasting spirits by using it. Because of that being the case, you can try to play it in a way where when it hits the board, you're ascending it and you're putting a total of 4 spirits under it. And that way, when you use the effect, there's a possibility you can use it on the next turn. If you're playing Hum Burst as your big mill payoff, then, you see all 3 of them and you mill 18 cards. We'll just assume you do it in the same, like on turn 1, because we can't assume what turn it is otherwise. 18 plus 5 is 23. So, like, 23 cards out of the opponent's deck, plus, like, that's 18 plus the 5 that they start with. That is a lot of cards. That's over half the deck that's gone now. And that is good. If you can get that, if you can get a Hum Burst to trigger again, then that's, another, what is that? Another 6 cards. That's 29 total cards out of their opponent's deck. And now you're only 11 away from winning the game. So that's still a powerful effect. It's just because it has to be like hard ascended into, because you have to disenchant spirits from underneath it, and because it is a 4/3 with this for a 2 cost, those stats are not very good at all. There's only, I think, a couple guys whose stats are, as a 2 cost guy, are worse than this. Permafrog comes to mind. Yeah, Coribram, Permafrog. There's very few, but they do exist. You have to use this card in sort of a specific way. Usually whenever I play this, it's in a, like I'm playing 1, and I have ways that ideally I can see it. You can find it with like Apollo. You can find it with Ardvarum, which I don't think you're ever really playing an Ardvarum package to search Hum, Bust, and Burst. Although it is possible, you can do it. I guess you could do it in an Earth Mill sort of deck. There's a list I think I made. I don't think I put the Ard Buds in there though, but either way, you can play Ardvarum to have it like a way to search it. It is a card that you can find through a few different ways. And because you can also get into it quickly through a bunch of different ways as well, like you can do Hestia special casting. If you're playing Solar and you have Exalted Champion, they run over your guy, you cast it out from your hand, and they don't have a way to beat over that, so your turn comes around, you still have your cast, and you go Hum Burst over the Exaltus Champion, and now you can use the effect and mill them for 6. There's a lot of ways where you can actually take advantage of the card and bring it out. But when you use it, you ideally want to be using it as a finisher when your opponent is like at 10 cards or under, at a point where you can really take advantage of like a lot of mills to put them on a much shorter clock, in case they don't have a way to otherwise beat you, or if you can just mill out their last 6 cards and win the game on the spot. Otherwise, then yes, this guy does suck ass. Unfortunately, it is just the way. It is a good finisher, but it is not much better than that. Unfortunately.
I think
now,
if you've gotten to that point of like being able to use a finisher, like you should be in a good enough game state to where another card that has been live all game should be able to help you out, or you should be able to win anyway without it. Like this is, it's not good mid game or early game. I
mean, in the first place, you're just not playing it because like if you top deck this card in a situation where you need something else, like that is just gonna suck.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, for mill decks, because you do play on a different axis, it is not out of the ordinary where you might be in a quote unquote winning position where your opponent is nearly milled out, but then they like top deck their last Champion Galaxy out your guy, and now you don't have a way to really contest their deck to try to push for game. Something like this can get you there a lot faster because 6 is such a high number of cards to mill. Sometimes the finisher, like the aspect of having a finisher, can make the difference. Not to say that you're always going to be playing one in every mill deck or anything. Like you play one maybe in like a Solar mill. Maybe you play one Hestia mill, because you can do a finisher, like you can do a finisher play where you just like knock out their last 6 cards and then win the game. But most of the time, there's just no good way to find room for this.
Yeah.
Although I will say, if we're going to Disneyland, we're going to we're going to Wonderland. We're seeing everything perfectly. This is the ideal scenario. There's a very real possibility that you could win the game outright from like 12 spirits, maybe even 18 spirits if you have a Salad Shade already on the board. You could go, ascend Hum Burst over a Solar guy, or a Fire guy, but let's just say it's a Calf Mel. You ascend Hum Burst over a Calf Mel. You get the trigger of the Calf Mel, heal 3 Solar and or Lunar, and then you go Hum Burst effect, Fire, disenchant the Fire, just disenchant the Solar, send it to the Underworld, and mill your opponent for 6. And then you go Rise from the Ashes because you just healed 3 off of the Calf Mel. Now you can afford it for free, basically. Bring back the Hum Burst, put the Fire, put the Solar, disenchant both of those again, and now you mill them for 6 again, and now you're winning the game from 12 spirits. If you have the Salad Shade on the board as well, and you're getting the extra 3 mills from the Hum Burst hitting the field both times, that's a total of 9 cards milled. for each time you're using Hum Burst, and now that's 18 cards. Now you're winning from 18 cards left in their deck, which is almost half their deck. That's a lot of cards, and it's not something that's super out of the ordinary to accomplish either. Because of how searchable Hum Burst is, you could play, First Light when you know you're coming up on that time where you can ascend for the win because you already drew your ride. You could grab that Hum Burst off of a Apollo trigger, and foretell 3, grab that Hum Burst, and then just hold it for that time where you can just win the game from that point. Because 6, if you can mill 6 twice in a turn, that's a lot of cards out of your opponent's deck. So it does have a use, but overall, because of the stats, because of the way that the effect works, and because there's no easy way to get it out, most of the time you're not even considering this because it is not a card that you want to be seeing in a mid-game scenario.
It's also one of the most punishing to get interacted with because, if you Gorgons my Salashade, oh, you stop my mill 3, I've got back row to protect it. If you Gorgons my Humbust, it just committed suicide to try to do this mill.
Mm-hmm.
And if it gets suppressed before you even get to activate it, like you said, it's a weenie. It's a 4/3. It could easily get walked over by something else on the next turn.
Yep. And that's the roughest part is you just can't. It's almost not even worth protecting at that point if it gets stopped. But at the same time, it is because it's 2 spirits that you're dedicating to the board, so you almost have to, and that's not really a situation that you want to be put in the first place.
Yeah.
But that's it for Hum Burst. Now we got Ruminous, the last of the 2 costs. It's 2 solar. When this Ruminous deals damage to an opponent, they must send the top 3 cards from their deck to the underworld for each spirit they expended. Now, this is only from the battle. It doesn't include, if you Cunning Offer your guy, run over it, and now you're getting an extra 3 damage off of the Cunning Offer. It doesn't count that. If it counted that, oh my god, we would have been cooking a long time ago. This card would have been unreal. Cunning Offer, Ruminous builds would have been so cool, but no, that's not how it works, unfortunately. Ruminous is such a weird case as a miller because most of the time, with the way that the effect works, you're going to be using a 2-cost guy and you're going to be running over a guy. Typically, if it's a 5, it's going to be an attack. And if you do that, it's going to be dealing 1 Spirit of Bleed damage to the opponent, like Passover damage, and it is going to be milling for the exact same amount as a Lumaru. So for 1 extra spirit, you are still for 2 spirits you're milling 3 cards, which is not good. That's not good value. Now, if you could do that multiple times, that's great. The even worse than that though is if Ruminous hits into a defense position guy, then it mills 0 because the opponent takes 0 battle damage, and the effect doesn't trigger, and now you're spending 2 for effectively a Misenchanted Cryovern. Yep. Misenchanted Cryovern is good, but you can actually get into that way easier than you can get into a Ruminous with. So, the difference there is that Ruminous, most of the time, the value isn't going to be worth it. However, if you're playing this card, the reason that you're playing this card is because the potential for the high-powered mills exist. If you put a bow of Apollo or a bow of Artemis on a Ruminous, you're hoping that they don't have a shield or something. But if you can land that hit, and then if you hit that direct hit, Ruminous with just 2 spirits is going to be milling 6. and that's pretty good when the body sticks around in the case that, you know, it's not a hum burst and it's not immediately leaving. Ruminous being able to do that on multiple turns, the fact that it's a battle, like in the same vein as a Lumaru, it's a battle-focused Miller, so you can use battle tricks, you can use Argo, you can use Breeze of Zephyros, something that I've done in the past with a Solar Mill deck, where I have Apollo and I have Ruminous. The opponent hard ascends into a Tornadian, Misenchanted. I think it was a Water Frost, so you know...
Oh, so it was Cryovern.
I mean, well, an 8-1 Cryovern, yeah. You know, they played the Water Frost Tornadian. It's an 8-1, going into Ruminous a 7-4. Play the Breeze Zephyros, Nexus a Spirit from Apollo to Ruminous, and boost it by 2/2. The Ruminous, because it goes up to a 9/6, beats over the Tornadian, and then that third spirit that it just received in the Nexus bleeds over the 2 spirits from the Tornadian, and your opponent loses their 2-cost guy and mills 3 cards.
Yes, sir.
And that is one of those situations where Ruminous comes in and is really, really good, because Lumaru, as good as it is not a 7. I mean, it's not a 7-4.
It's not clearing a Tornadian.
If you have a Lumaru, the only way it's getting over Tornadian is like Argo or something. If your opponent drops Eddie, that Eddie with no interruptions can take out a Lumaru. It can't take out a Ruminous. Ruminous, if it attacks directly with 12 spirits, and it on turn 2 wins the game, because each spirit of damage that the opponent takes, your opponent mills 3. So if you attack for 12 damage, you mill for 36 cards.
That is actually, fun fact about that play, Ruminous OTK is actually the most consistent mill deck. You should be playing Ruminous OTK.
And you know why that is?
Why?
Because when a Ruminous has 12 spirits and attack directly, it always wins.
Oh, there you go.
That's why it's the most consistent. But for real though, like, that is, like, if you can attack directly with 12 spirits, if they've done a little bit of searching, you can get away with 11. Even if you're punching with 6 directly, 6 spirits of damage is 18 cards out of your opponent's deck. That's insane. And being able to keep the body around as a 7-4 at least that can just, like, still get value is huge for you. So that is why Ruminous is one of the most interesting ones, is because typically speaking, if you're just ascending it and it's just sitting at 2 spirits, and you're attacking into, like, defensive guys or just, like, regular 5s, it's getting the same mill value as a Lumaru, or worse, because Lumaru can attack into a defensive position guy and mill cards if they beat over it. Ruminous can't. It has to deal damage directly. So if you are able to do that, and you are able to stack a whole bunch of spirits under it and punch directly, say you Helios's Chariot Ride that turn so that you can do the big punch.
Hell yeah.
Like, that can straight up just win you the game in most cases, especially against game plan decks, because if you're milling, you know, if you're punching for like 6, that's half their deck, or more than half their deck of what is left from their deck, and that means that they're going to be losing game plan pieces. That might be all of their bear pieces. That might be their entire Pantera line. That might be their entire Pantera line and all of their pigs. Like, that could be all of their counter runes, and now they just don't have anything left to try and protect themselves from your Ruminous. Like, that is a lot of cards, and that's why, like, this card is so interesting. It's got the highest potential to just mill basically your opponent's entire deck out. I had a game where this card by itself milled 18 cards over the course of the game in, like, 2 battles. Ruminous is really, really cool. It is just very difficult to justify in most cases because it's not consistent. You have to hard ascend it. and it is weak to a lot of the same cards that Salashade is, but Salashade doesn't have to attack. This one does. So that's why this one's a fair bit riskier than playing Salashade, and the most successful thing you could be doing is be playing Salashade if you're trying to mill your opponent at least. But that's Ruminous, the big bad OTK machine. It is, sometime I will be putting this OTK together, and if I can just get it to happen once, that is all I want. I want to see a whole deck get milled from one punch. That's all I want.
God, it's gonna go so hard when it happens.
And it is going to be a win because it will happen. I don't care if I have to do it not on turn 2, but like turn 4, where turn 2 I have to like do a setup play where I set it like a Helios' Chariot Ride and set up like an Arcolith or something.
That's all right. That's close enough.
It's halfway there, and then the next turn I can Apollo for 3 cows, and then Tad Puff and triple Bubloon Champ, and then ascend over every spirit in my deck to punch through. That's Ruminous. Ruminous is really fun, but now we're on to the runes. So we have the runes here. That's all of the milling Elestrals. The runes are going to be a lot simpler, I think. Avalanche can be seen as both like a self-mill and an opponent mill card. Obviously, I think Blistrix decks, there's some people who have been playing Avalanche in there in substitute for some of like the missing Moroliths, some of the other cards that have been limited since. Because it does mill quite a bit if you're playing a Frost deck. Like, you can mill yourself for 5, which is really good. That's really powerful. But if you're playing a deck where you are trying to mill your opponent, you're playing this with a Humbust, you're playing Avalanche, and that is milling you and your opponent for 3. It's going to hurt you a little bit, but if you're playing Avalanche in a mill deck, that's like where you play it alongside your Humbust, ideally you're playing it in a way where that Humbust or that Avalanche is going to get you some value later on. I put a couple lists in here that take advantage of the Humbust Avalanche interaction. But Avalanche, say with like an Earth deck where you can take advantage of like a Giraflora, Gigaflora, Pandasin, and just recycle your guys, use Pandasin to recycle Avalanche, that's a thing you could do. Or in a Lunar Phase deck where you Avalanche and mill your Lunar Phases and now use some of your other effects to like search for a Voldusk or set up for it's not in the list I posted, but you could in theory play a Volclips and be able to go up into it and like through some other stuff and then take advantage of the fact that you've been milling your Lunar Phases. Like, there's things that you can do with Avalanche in decks where your goal is to mill your opponent out that are actually really cool, but at the very least, like, Avalanche itself is going to be hyper efficient when you play it with a Humbust. That's 5 cards for 1 spirit. The only thing that comes close to that is like a hit for 1 spirit that's like really, really, really hit for 1 spirit that's like really, really, really. There is one of the other benefits to playing Avalanche is that because you're playing Frost, you can play Cryoblast in your deck, and now you're putting removal in your mill deck. And Cryoblast is another rune, so if you're using Cryoblast on your opponent's guy, and that takes it out, you mill them for 2, you get rid of their body, and removal that mills is really... The other thing that you can do with this is not even necessarily try to use it as a way to play into your mills. But if you're playing a mill deck, you can side this card against decks that are game plan decks. Say like Bears, if you're playing against Blizzstrix even, because yes, Blizzstrix does want to mill their cards, but they want to mill their cards when they're ready to mill the right cards. If you mill all of their Blizzstrix and all of their Cryoverns and all of their big in their mountains, like before they get a chance to actually see them when they count, then that's going to be, objectively speaking, a worse position for them, because now they don't actually have access to those things. If you mill all of their cedar sores and they come out on the field, I mean, if you have, if you have a Salashade out, like, what are they going to do? Are they actually going to cast the cedar sores if you have a Salashade out? I mean, maybe. But like, you mill 9, they clog their field, they don't have a way to get rid of them. Like, that doesn't seem very good.
God, I want to play the matchup of mill versus self mill.
It is straight up casino, as someone who has played that matchup. It really does come down to who hits what they want first. And if they start off with a Narpoon and they don't search like a Brumalinx, if they search a Snowlet for whatever reason, because they just happen to know that you're, whatever the case is, it can really suck, because if they drop a Snowlet and you don't have a way to out it, then you milling them can just turbo them into a Blistrix.
Yeah.
But that's the gamble. It is straight up casino. On one hand, that could happen, but on the other hand, like, they're trying to mill themselves into their big guys, and you're kind of helping them there. So you're like, their deck is getting milled out at like light speed, and now they lose after like 3 turns, because like 40 cards have just been milled. So it can go either way. It is wild when it happens, though, because sometimes sometimes one player just hits and the other one doesn't, and sometimes it's the opposite. The only thing that does suck in that regard is Blistrix is probably the best counter to decks that want to mill your opponent, because it does put cards back in your deck. Very few cards do that. Helios' Slumber is a joke. If you have a Humbust on the field and they go Slumber, put a card from their Underworld on top of their deck, it's going back into the Underworld. The only way that matters, if they're literally playing Blistrix and they're trying to get a retrigger. But there's no shot that they're doing that, because why would they? That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's Avalanche. It's just really efficient, enables you to play Cryoblast, and 5 cards with the Humbust, 7 cards with 2, and 9 cards with 3 is just like really, really good value if you're milling your opponent. But you don't really want to be playing it all the time, because it's just it's like the Cinder problem, where if you normal enchant a Cinder, you're not developing your board. Same thing here. Avalanche doesn't develop your board. You could, I suppose, in an Earth mill deck, play 3 Cedar Soar, and then play Avalanche, and then that could develop your board, but ultimately, if you're considering this for a mill deck to try and mill out your opponent, it's probably just as a side for decks that have like very strict game plans, and you just need to accelerate the rate at which you mill. That's pretty much it. The next rune is the simplest one. Pandora's Box is already everywhere. You know how this goes, but just in case you don't, any 2 spirits. Pandora's Box can only be cast when an opponent activates effects that specifically searches or casts a card from their deck. You negate that effect, and then that opponent must send the top 2 cards from their deck to the Underworld. For the mill effect specifically by itself, it's really inefficient. It's bad. Don't count on it. Actually milling what you want it to. The mill can hit things. I did use this on Monday at the store regional, where I was playing against the Law, and they cast Champion Spy Nymph to search for a Hermes. I flipped Pandora's Box, negated the search, and the 2 cards that it milled off the top, one was the Hermes. That actually took that out of contention. So it is possible, because there's always a chance. You're gambling when you do this, but Um, you're not playing this typically in the main because it mills. If you're playing this in the main, it's because the meta, it is a good meta to be maining a Pandora's box. The only way that this gets good value is if you have a hum bust on the field, and that's pretty much it. If you're playing this, you should be playing it for the fact that it is stopping an important effect that your opponent is trying to take advantage of, not for the mills.
Yeah, that makes
What are your
sense.
thoughts?
I mean, it is in most side decks. For a long time, for me, that was the secret effect that I never resolved because negate search, good enough. Um, I think it is. I think you put it in a mill deck, not because it mills, just because it is that nice tech piece to say,
Yeah.
To just use as disruption, and it's fun that it mills.
Yeah. There's definitely, because of the game plan decks that do exist right now, there is an argument that you could main, like if you're playing like a Mills Fargo style deck or like a Hestia Mill style deck or even like a Solar Mill style deck, you could see an argument for playing two in your main deck potentially because like Bears exist. Bears Turbo is very popular.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bears won the last premiere, I believe, if I recall correctly. And like that list was really, really scary.
Oh yeah.
And so having this available to stop a Majursa from coming out, or even especially a Cryo Scorch. I mean, if you Pandora's Box the effect in the draw phase of a Cryovern, they discard their whole hand, they don't get the Cryo Scorch. Now they don't have any cards. So what are they going to do now? Sit on? I mean, Cryovern is good, but if you have any back row to deal with it, then you're looking really, really good. Pandora's Box, good card, but don't use it as a mill card. Like for Mills Fargo, the deck that I played on Monday, it was just a side. I sided in for decks that cared about it.
Yeah.
That was about it. The last one is Golden Apple, and like you said, the Pandora's Box, that mill 2, that was kind of a secret effect, right?
Yep.
What does that last line of text on Golden Apple say?
Apparently the same thing as Pandora's Box, another secret effect. I didn't know that until we were talking about putting this together. When you said Golden Apple, I went, "What the fuck are you talking about?" It says it. It's always said it.
Yep, it says discard a card from your hand, and if you do, discard a card from your opponent's hand, and then they move the top 2 cards from their deck to the underworld. That's the original printing right there. It didn't always say move. Now it says send the top 2 cards, but milling, I guess, used to be moving. So if I'm Mill Master Mike, then I guess I used to be Move Master Mike. Sounds like I'm like a dancer or something, which I'm definitely not that. This is a really interesting card. It's the value proposition is really unusual because by itself with no humbust, it's a 1 spirit that rips a card from their hand and mills 2 from their deck. So you're getting rid of 3 cards. That value is pretty solid. The fact that you are discarding a card sort of balances that out though and makes it more like a 2 card that you're getting rid of because you're spending one of your cards from your hand. And if you're playing this, you're probably using it as a way to trigger Humbust, which you should, so that that 1 spirit for 2 cards plus a discard becomes 4 cards in a discard for 5 total cards, to really just get bonus value out of your Humbust triggers. However, discarding from your hand is counterintuitive to the way that you want to be playing if you're playing like an active play style with Humbust, because Humbust, like we mentioned before, it wants you to have a lot of spirits. It wants you to have a lot of spirits available. It wants you to have a lot of cards in hand to be able to use effects. and cast runes so that you can get those triggers as much as possible. Golden Apple discarding from your hand kind of hurts that, because now, unless it's just a card you don't care about, you can you're losing that card advantage that you kind of need. Now you can use it in other ways, of course. Back in the day, it was a part of the Drataya Waspire FTK where you would deep draw your deck. You would go Golden Apple to pitch a card, and then you would use Rise to bring. Well, Rise is at 1 now. That's a lot harder to do. Fire decks with Fire and Solar decks don't really do a lot of reviving from the underworld. Water does, but you're not really doing a lot of milling in water.
Yeah.
Frost does, but if you're milling in Frost, you're milling yourself. So, discarding can be good in a way, but Keone can get the card back, or Frostix can bring special cast it out, which that's a good interaction, but ultimately it's just better things you can be doing, because again, same issue with Avalanche, same issue with Cinder that we mentioned. It's just not impacting your opponent's board. It's good on the first turn when you're impacting what they can do when it's not their turn. But when the game is, 3 turns into the game, boards are established, people have back row, maybe someone's got a Zeus or a Demeter or whatever the case is, this doesn't do anything for that. And if they know, and if you've already played this, and it's a game 2 or it's a game 3 scenario, and they know that you have this, they can just set their cards, and then, or they can just set their cards and have no hand, and now Golden Apple doesn't really do anything. Or if they know that, or if they don't have a proper hand to set like that, they can just hold a bunch of cards in their hand, and now the opportunity for you to pick something worthwhile out of their hand is way more difficult to actually snipe the thing that they need.
Yeah.
So that makes this card very unusual, because it is a valuable card to mill, but unless you're like really pumping your mills as much as possible, card kind of plays against what you want to be doing most of the time. Now that said, we've seen potentially some cards coming in Lifestorm. I won't speculate about stuff. We know about Hellmelt.
Little pixel
That card
guy.
is very good, specifically with this.
God, imagine going
potential...
discard Hellmelt, special cast Hellmelt, ascend Salashade.
Using the spirit that you use to pay for the Golden Apple, mind you, that making the Hellmelt free. So now you're plussing off of your discard. You're ripping the card from their hand. You're milling 2, because in this scenario, we love freaking La La Land or whatever where your opponent, you went first. You have a Humbust on the field. You protected it for a turn. You milled them for 2. So that was 5. They drew a card. You milled them for 2, protecting your Humbust, and then you go Golden Apple on the next turn, pitching a Hellmelt. That's 5. That's the 6 card, 7, 8 from the let's say the Gorgons that you used. The Golden Apple, 9, 10, 11, 12 from the effective Golden Apple and the Humbust combined, and you rip the card from their hand. You get the Hellmelt onto the field, and now you ascend it into a Salashade, milling them another 3. That's a lot of cards. That's a lot of mill advantage that you got right there. I don't actually. I've only seen an image of it. There's a live stream teaser puzzle for what looks like a fire guy. I put it here. I'm pretty sure I know sort of what the name is, and sort of what the effect does. Like one of those, like Greek or whatever words that they have, like puzzle words. It looks like Nexus. The other one looks like enchant or enrage or whatever. I'm pretty sure if it's what I believe it to be, which is the ascension form of a Hellmelt, perhaps, then my guess is that it probably benefits from being pitched as well. So you could viably have some sort of an Apple Humbust Mill style deck in the future. Probably still playing Hestia if I had to guess, because Hestia just is really good with a lot of like speedy plays like this.
Yeah.
Like if you have a Salad Shade already and you go Golden Apple, pitch a Hellmelt, it comes out for free. You still have a normal cast. If they have 2 guys when you do that, and you only have those 2 guys, and you go Hestia effect, get out like a Cinder, that's another 6. Ascend into another Salad Shade. Now you're milling at like the speed of light. Like, I mean, there's like so many possibilities for what you can do with Golden Apple potentially in Livestream. It looks like it might be pretty cool. But that's what we got for now. Before, I don't know if you have anything else to say on Golden Apple.
I mean, Golden Apple is a cringe card. You shouldn't play it just because of the cringe factor. If you cast this card against me, I'm gonna get kind of mad at you. Anything that don't touch my hand, okay? Just don't touch my hand. But I mean, the spirit math is there. It's just the card advantage math is left to be desired. And if you could play a deck that made up for that, why would I not just be adding more cards to protect my Humbust or more mill cards or something? You know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it has some application, but I can't imagine it will ever be seen as truly a mill card.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like the live stuff, like the live stream stuff. There's like some potential to cook, I think, but yeah, for the most part, I don't think it is efficient in that way for mill. Like at this point, you're just better off playing good cards that affect your opponent's board and are runes that Humbust can take advantage of potentially. Like a Cryoblast is just like strictly better than this.
Yeah.
But all right, so the next thing we got is nice decks. We got the deck lists coming up. We went through all the cards. Yeah.
Woo! We looked at the cards. Now we're gonna put them together.
Yeah, we're gonna see a bunch of deck lists that we put together. Some of these might not be optimal. I think
one of them is
Fargo. I think the Mills Fargo decks are. But there's a lot of unoptimal decks out there. They can always be improved. Please play these decks, see what you can do, and see if you discover anything. And let us know, because we always like to see what people are coming up with. But we got some nice decks. Let's see. I'm gonna have to step away for a moment, so I'll set it to here because this is your deck list, and you can talk about this. You can talk about some of the games that you've had. I have to go real quick and feed my cats because they are like pounding on my door, and so I'll be right back.
All right, so this is more of the kind of mill that I like to play. I want to get my shit out fast. I'm trying to do Hestia, cast out some 1 cost that gets advantage, and then immediately ascend it. If we see something like a Smoky is a perfect Hestia card. Cast it, draw into your Salad Shade, maybe. Cinder's another good one. You get a mill 3 as you're climbing. Obviously, Ash Rabbit, not only the face of the best Elestrals team, but also can help grab back some of the combo pieces you've already gone through. One of the many downsides of this deck is how expensive it is. Until we get that Kinleo, you're really just burning through your spirits as fast as you can with Hestia. Realistically, you don't want to be swinging either with Salad Shade. Swinging with Cat Perfume is fine, but you're not going to be getting a lot of board control done here. You're just hoping to make it to Salad Shade and then be able to protect your Salad Shade until you can mill them out. We do have, something like the Lumaru. Being in on Solar lets us play the Lyre for Argo also, which is pretty helpful. The Ignector stuff I think is really cool. If you draw one of the new Ignectors, you can use it just like as a Hestia Ascension tool. You'd special cast it out and it gets you some value before you ascend. But if you draw that original Ignector, there you go. You're going wide. You're searching 2 cards that let you draw 2 cards. Ignector's also the best card to cast if you've got Salashade on board. That's just a mill 9 right there. Oh my god, you don't care about the battle phase anyway. You're not swinging with your Salashade unless they have like literally no back row. So trading your battle phase for mill 9, we take that all day. A fun play you can do is you go Ignector, the OG Ignector for the other 2, just to get some deck thinning. You add both the Nogs. You pay one of the Nogs off of 2 of the Ignectors, so you still get to keep a body on board for Ascension, and it's pseudo free to draw 2 cards. Card draw in this deck is really important because we want to be, our game plan is stick a Salashade for the rest of the game. So we need to be seeing back row. That's going to let us do that. We still are playing some just like general good fire cards. Lavalith, Kinleo. The Ash Rabbit is like a generally good fire card. But a lot of this is just we are in on the bit. We're trying to get as much milling done as possible, as fast as possible. There's some things that I think I just put this list together in about like 2 seconds. Mike was making this slideshow, and I went, I guess I could like help or something. I guess we should probably be on Champ Torchin. I don't know what we're cutting for that. We should probably also be on Tsunami. Tsunami is so nice. Mike is cooking. Millmaster Mike says that we should be on Humbust. I'm not the biggest hum believer, but I could definitely see cutting something in here. Maybe even the Cinders and like Altar Stars for something like Humbust and Tsunami. You probably don't need to be on 2 Ash Rabbit either. But you want to really put as many 1-cost Fire Elestrals as you can into a Hestia deck, because that is the only thing that gives your Hestia value. Caperfume is probably also Cope, but it's funny. It's a cool guy. I think her stats are like 5/4, so it doesn't even lose to like a Gorgons or a Spectaris the same way a Salashade would. So it'll help just like keep a general board presence. I think she gives like +2 to everyone, or maybe just herself. I'm not sure. I'm gonna pull that up right now. Let's see. This Caperfume gets +2 for each fire on the field. So I mean, it comes out as a 9 by itself, and then it helps you get your board wider by special casting. I like it. Probably shouldn't be on it, but if we're going back to Magical Christmas Land, you get that out. You special cast once you have a Salashade out, and you get 2 casts every turn, so you get to double trigger the Salashade. Makes getting Salashade easier too, to get like a 2nd or a 3rd Salashade. What else is there in this deck? I'm just yapping at this point. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. We got the Lumaru in there. Help clear boards. A little synergistic with the Argo. I'm personally not a big fan of 3 Ambrosia in most decks. I think Ambrosia's a brick. If you have an opening hand of 2 Ambrosia, you know the exact feeling I have when I'm putting my 3rd Ambrosia in a deck. But I think for this deck, it probably is necessary until we get that Champion of Hestia Kinleo that gets to heal, 3 or 4? Probably 3 Fire Spirits on special cast. until we get that, your Hestia is really expensive. Your Argo's really expensive. We're blowing through counter runes as fast as possible just so that we can keep our big boss monster out. I think once we hit Lifestream, this is going to be a much better deck to when we look back at it, because we'll be able to be playing some of the new fire tools that haven't even been announced yet. But that Kinleo is going to be crazy. What else is there? I think that Kinleo. Wait, I got
Kinleo
Shadow Stars. I should have that thing in my hands.
It's on special. Wait, is it special cast?
I think
special
it's only on special,
right
but it's like a 4/1 or something.
I got it right behind me, so let me tell you real quick. It is a 4/1, yeah. Special cast, so heal 3 fire from the underworld, and you can search a Leonite.
Actually, well, I play the Hollows, so you can't search Leonite.
Oh, true. You have to play what the card says.
Yep.
And I'm playing Prototype on Bust, so.
Oh shit. Yeah, that's all I had. That's more than all I had to say about this deck.
All right, so that's your Hestia Mill deck. Here's the one that I've been playing in Clash. It's a little different. In this version, I'm as opposed to your list, and we can flip back and forth even to see because it is a little different. I don't know if you've been playing a little bit of a different list in Clash.
Oh, I threw this together in like 2 seconds. Half this shit is not legal in Clash anyway.
Yeah, I mean the problem. Yeah, I mean there's no Smokey.
There's no Smokey. There's no
really
Ash Rabbit.
No Ash Rabbit, which really sucks. No Caperfume, which also really sucks. And because that you do have to take some liberties, but specifically for Clash, like we do still have, the Ignector that searches the Nog. At least we don't have the OG one to, special cast all of them out, but that's okay-ish. I wish we had Smokey at least, so we didn't have to run these cards. But I do play in my Hestia list at least. I do like playing the Torchin because it does Nexus a fire.
Oh yeah, well I was discussing cards that because I just threw that list together in like 2 seconds. Discussing cards that I would put in the deck, and Champ Torchin was one of them. Was the first one I said was missing that should be in there.
Oh yeah. The thing when I play this deck though that I noticed is that most of the time when I'm playing the Champ Torchin, I'm actually using it to search the torch and not the Hestia.
Really?
Because the torch comes up quite often where you already have Hestia, and you need that way to get into more of your fire cards. Whether that's adding, like being able to look and add your Kinleo straight to hand, or a Cinder, or Warmite, or a Hearth, because it can do that too. Being able to like get those cards into your hand before your next turn when you need more cards to special and do all the plays that you need to do, that's been actually pretty helpful. And that attack boost as well, so that Cinder isn't just a 3. Like I can actually have it as a 5.
Yeah, that's another instance of secret text on a card. Torch of Hestia, if you control Hestia, lets you just add a fire card.
Oh, correction. It is not if you control Hestia.
Oh, yeah,
if there is an
Hestia
enchanted Hestia on the field. Which sucks because guess what card Fire Artifact plays?
Yeah, that does mess up your matchup against Fire Artifact, I'm sure.
Yeah, giving them a free ad is not usually great. But, sometimes it just can't be helped. At least
don't
in
play
like
against Johnny then.
That's true. That is true. Don't in like a best of 3 scenario at the very least, if you know that they are playing Fire Artifact and they have Torch of Hestia, you can sort of play around it by just, it sucks, but you can go Hestia for 2, use it for the effect, and now it's gone.
Yeah.
So now they don't get that benefit, and then you can try to save the torch for when you have your own Hestia, go for the battle with Hestia, enchant it for 3, and then pay off of the Hestia, pay that one last one off of the Hestia for one of your counter runes before they can get that torch effect. Because if I recall, it's only when it resolves that it makes that check to see if Hestia is enchanted. So if they go to battle with a torch, and you have Hestia, but you also have shield, your Hestia has 1 spirit, and you go. They make the attack. They go torch effect to do the foretell 3, and then you go shield, pay off the Hestia. So now Hestia is no longer enchanted to bounce their guy back to hand. I believe that the way that resolves is that they only get the foretell 3 because on the cast of on the resolution of the effect, when it makes that second check, it sees that Hestia is not enchanted, so they can't add the fire card to hand.
I believe that's correct. That would be my understanding of that ruling.
Yeah. And if that is the way that if that is indeed the way that it works, then that is a way that if you know you're playing into it, you can adjust accordingly, I guess. So you're also not jumping the gun and getting rid of your Hestia too soon. You can keep it on the field so that if you use a Hestia's Hearth, you can re-enchant it from the underworld to be used again. There's a lot of different ways. But it still sucks that a fire artifact deck playing Torch can just benefit off of you playing Hestia.
They're cheaters. What can I say?
That is true. They're just like not falling. I mean, whatever happened to like I said so? No. But yeah, this is the list that I play. It's a little different, obviously, from the other one, but for the most part, it's like the similar concept. You want to take advantage of the Cinders. You want to try to get those re-enchants. You want to try to play aggressively, get a lot of value out of those Cinders, and get your Salashade ideally out as fast as possible, so that it gets as much value as it possibly can.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of the Warmite and the Hearth, so that you're able to get a lot of that spirit. That's those spirits that you use back because your plays are so expensive. This similar concept. I also just like playing the Lyre because Whale and Eddy and everything are just so prevalent everywhere, and having that to protect the Salashade in the long term is actually really good.
Yep.
But overall, I would say the Hestia Mill stuff. It's really fun. It's much better in a best of one format, because once your opponent knows that you're on this, it's actually pretty easy to punish you if they know what your deck is doing and what your average stat line is. Because in a deck like this, if you're going to play a long game, you really need to see your counter runes. And if they can just force them out at inopportune times, because otherwise you just have no board presence, then they can just kind of run you down, and your plays are so expensive that you might not, like, if you don't see Hestia until like 4 turns into the game, you might not even really be able to use it properly.
Yeah.
Also, even sometimes with this deck, when you can turbo out a Salashade, you still can't even protect it properly. I'm pretty sure, because you play 3, it's still correct to get it out as soon as possible on the chance that they can't deal with it. But if they can, and you can't protect it, then you're still pretty much back to square one, and like a Champ Galaxy that outs a Salashade really hurts.
Yeah.
Because that's more often than not, if you're doing that in one turn, that's 4 spirits of investment. That's 2 from the Hestia, and then the 2 for the Salashade, and 3 cards total that you've invested into the board. And if they drop 1 card to out one spirit card that outs 4 spirits that cost you 3 cards, I mean, that is devastating for you. So that's the downside of a Hestia Mill. Also, if you just don't see anything. Like if you just don't see the Hestia, like you're just playing a slower version of the deck, and it's just not as good.
Yep.
But anyway, to the version of Mill that is currently the best performing way to play the deck, and that is Mill's Fargo. The creation of mine, which was sort of it's like sort of me having to recognize that the deck, like playing Mill aggressively, it's possible, but it's way more difficult to do when you are trying to play a game of solitaire in a way. Like you're not always playing the game of solitaire, but you sort of do by playing with your own cards rather than interacting with your opponent's board. This is sort of a capitulation to like, okay, decks need fives in their deck and on the board to pressure their opponent's boards, because if you don't pressure your opponent's board, it doesn't matter if you're milling like 30 cards out of their deck. If they've got three Viscerus and like a Doppelgator or like a, not a Doppelgator, like if they've got like a Brumalinx, a Cedarsaur, an Asprowl, and a Cryoling, because you couldn't out their Snowlit, you couldn't out their Brumalinx, you couldn't deal with their board at all, like in any way, and they were just able to get into those things. Maybe they just got into that in turn 2. I don't know. That's like what that deck does sometimes. But like if they couldn't do that, and that was like a turn 6 board because you couldn't out their guys, then the problem is like you need a way to deal with that. And this was sort of that idea where you have Humbust, and rather than trying to play into the Humbust for all, like we've already discussed all this on the Humbust page, but it's like the idea of you play the Humbust, and it gets value from not you playing into it, but your opponent playing their runes to try and protect their board and interact with your cards. And the one turn that the Humbust lands, and every other turn after that, you're just dropping Lumaru, Spectaris, Lumaru, Valkyrie, Spectaris, Lavalith, and you're just like dropping bodies that are threats.
Yeah.
And if they spend those resources on the Humbust, you still have the threats on the board, and you can deal with their board. And you can just like punch them to death. If they out if they out your fives, your tempo bodies, then you can just, then you're getting value out of the Humbust, milling their deck away for every single time that they pay spirits to mill themselves. So you're getting value the entire time. It got even better because previously in Moonrise, the best way to take advantage of it before the Champion Hephaestus stuff came out was to try and get Salashade out. But it was to play it in a Fire Nexus sort of build, which was a slower build. You're still taking advantage of some other options, not necessarily playing Cinder, more so playing like Ash Rabbit and Neckruff and playing like a water package with eddies and things like that. But it was a similar idea, but it really came more into focus when the Volcari's champion stuff came down.
Yeah.
Because that meant that you could have Humbust on turn 1, protect it with a counter rune, drop a Volcari's on turn 2, they drew a card for their turn, the counter rune that you use to protect the Humbust mills it for 2, so that's 5, 6 for the draw, 7, 8 cards out of their deck at the start of your next turn. You drop the Volcari's, you search the Hef hits the board, mills them for 2 to 10 total cards, and then you can use that to search for one of your artifacts. Even if you don't play it, just getting it out of your deck so it's not a card that you can top deck is good. But like in this scenario, and I have it in the corner because I'll swap the Tunic out for a Torch depending on what I expect is going to be more useful. I tend personally to like the Tunic a little bit more, just because it plays better with Reforge when I side that in, and it plays better with Eruption and alongside the Reforge too, because now I have a second artifact that I can play next to Necklace, where it's Necklace or Tunic can be played with Volcaries and Hef on the field. Uh, Play those, pay for them with the Underworld Fire Spirits for free, and then cast like an Eruption off of that, then Reforge, and then et cetera, where I'm essentially using those, like that loop of things, to take advantage of all those cards for free. That's not unique to this deck specifically. That's just why I prefer Tunic more often. Also because Tunic impacts the opponent's Alestral in the same way that like Zeus does. But when in regards to like your opponent's Alestral's trying to take out a Salashade, if they go Eddie and all I have is an Argo, now I can and let's say I already used the Liar to protect the Salashade. That's gone. That's in the Underworld. I don't have a way to get that back. I don't have a Reforge on. My opponent goes Eddie, swaps the Salashade to defense. I can Argo into the Tunic, minus it by 2, and protect the Salashade in that instance. So now that Tunic is both offensive and defensive, because I can run in on the following turn. I could drop a Lumaru, Terrace, Carries, or whatever, and run over that Eddie, burn them for 2, and keep my Salashade in the process. Whereas like a Torch, and Torch it could be, it's mostly optional for Tunic. That's the main thing you would swap out, because Liar is just good in more situations than it would be compared to Tunic if you swap that out. But like you could keep like Torch of Hestia, Necklace, and Tunic if you just wanted 3 artifacts that you could, pay with a fire from the Underworld. Liar, you can't do that unless you're, misenchanting it for a Kinleo, which is that also comes up. But the effect of Liar is just good enough to. You should always, I think, have it in the deck.
Yeah, I would agree.
But that is the the gist of the theory behind this, is that it is taking advantage of the Fire Artifact engine, which is a really awesome, really cool engine. It is taking advantage of the fact that you are pumping 5s onto the field while you have the Humbust up, so you're forcing that interaction. You're milling using your opponent's spirits, so you're whatever you're paying to protect it with your own counter runes is being offset by the fact that Humbust is usually going off because your opponent's paying for it. And then the only downsides I would say is when you have a Humbust out and you don't have a attacker that you can drop, and then you have to drop a Rabbit or a small Tuga. There's some occasions where your opponent, if they drop a Champion Galaxy, might opt to go for the Rabbit instead of the Humbust, but the fact that both of them are defensive bodies, they might just opt to go for the Humbust because 2 guys in defense, they're not really threatening their board. They can just run over the Humbust because the other one, it's too much investment to get over right now. They can just figure out something else later to deal with it. Those are the downsides to those cards, even though they are, they're necessary for the deck. Before Kinleo got limited, I would say you could run 2 Kinleo in the main, 1 in the side, for if you were going up against decks that had big game plans, like if you're going up against the Bears deck. If you needed that 3rd Kinleo, just like a higher chance to see it, so you could out the Majursa when it hits the board, that would have been the thing, and you could probably get away with not playing Small Tuga at that point. I played 3 Volcaries in this for a time because making the Argo free for the Humbust triggers was also really good, because what was otherwise paying 4 to mill 4, which is really bad, turned into pay 2 to mill 4, which is actually good. So having accessible Volcaries so that those Argos were turned on was something that I thought about doing. Ultimately, though, the small Tugas did just end up being necessary, unfortunately. As much as I like them, I like them more in like the standard fire artifact deck where you don't have to spend resources to protect something smaller like the Humbust, I think. But it is still so good because it can get you into the Volcaries, it can get you into the Kinleo, and it can even get you into like finding the Humbust if you have the other things or you're just in a position where you can take advantage of that. It's still like it is still too good to not run in this deck.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that's the general gist of Mills Fargo. Obviously, like I said, you can run any combination of these 4 artifacts. The torch can literally take the place of any of these 3 except for the necklace. The necklace is, I think, the only thing that you should be running. If you're playing Argo, you play necklace. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
You could play a Reforge in here as well. I don't know what you would take out for it. Maybe a small Tuga.
Ambrosia.
You could do Ambrosia, but Mill is expensive, man. I know.
Yeah.
It's a rough proposition, but you maybe argument for a 3rd Argo, but you kind of need it. I don't know. It's hard to fit that space for Clash at least. Playing best of 3, you can just side out the poison tipped arrows. That's a lot easier. Maybe you just don't play the poison tipped arrows then, I don't know. That's just the idea behind this, though. The next one, though, is basically the same thing, but with a twist. It's kind of hard to tell what the difference is with this one and the last one, though.
It's pretty easy for me to see the difference. There's a big fucker called Majersa.
I don't really remember what the difference is. Can you tell me? I can't see it.
I'm seeing this big fucker called Majersa. God, Bears is miserable. And it's a competent strategy. It blows up the board. That's why I don't like it. But hey, it gives you a different game plan. It's more runes to cast to trigger your Humbust.
Yep. It's more cast to trigger your Saddle Shade.
True.
That image in the bottom right is a real image. That actually happened.
Hell yeah.
That was Saddle Shade on the board. I took the screenshot too late because I kind of realized where at like a few turns later after the Ursicle was gone. But that was Saddle Shade first, and then Ursicle into Majersa.
Now, is that image in the bottom left real?
That image in the bottom left is actually real. Channel Exar Merrick, aka Kier, sent me this back and forth between them and Bean Soldier, where they showed Bean Soldier TV the image right next to it of me with the Majersa champion and the Salachet next to each other, and that was literally the response. I just took the big version of this, like the cut version of this, of them saying that because it was funny. It was awesome. It fits right there.
It is.
But yeah,
funny.
this is like the Mills Bear. It's just Mills Fargo, but like we made a bunch of adjustments. Like the water stuff is gone because like we can't fit all the spirits in here.
Yeah.
And now we just got 3 Ursicle, 1 Din, 2 High Bear Nation because it's like you see an Ursicle later, you get the second High Bear Nation. You play it off of the Ursicle, and that is still going to... Like, that's still a fire heal if you need it. At that point, you probably don't need the Frost heal, at the very least. But the Ursidin, you only really need the one... Like, you could play 2 of it, probably. I don't know what you're cutting for it, but...
I like Ursidin at 1, especially in a deck like this.
Yeah, it's just it's supposed to be a small engine. It's a bear... It is a bear bomb. I think for this list, I cut the Liar for Torch because I had less ways to be aggressive, especially because I was also cutting Argo to make space for the bear stuff, especially because you don't want to have to try and see 2 Ursicle. When you drop the Ursicle, ideally you want to have the bear bomb ready to go. If you're just sitting on like Ursidin in hand, your opponent can. There are adjustments your opponent can make, like by setting for trying to swarm out guys so that like there's too many targets for the Majursa to take care of. So you do kind of need like that ratio of 1 den to 2 high bear so that you have a chance to see a high bear ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I did have to cut Argo. That meant that Argo was less accessible in the deck, of course. Argo being less accessible means Liar is less accessible as a defensive tool. It means that it's less accessible for things like Tunic. So both of those options, as much as I want them in the deck, there is not much space to fit them viably. So the better option was to allow Volcaries to be like a 6 again, where I am playing the Volcaries, playing the Hephaestus, searching the Torch, and now the 2 Argo exist so that the necklace could resolve as a defensive removal tool to win a battle. I think that was the correct way to go with that. You could make an argument that you could cut the poison-tipped arrows for the 3rd Argo and then like a Liar, I think. But I think either way, with the shift towards Ursicle, Din, Hibernation, and a Majursa as like a bear bomb for this strategy, where Ursidin and Hibernation, that's another 4 mils for Humbust, and another 6 mils for Salashade. You do have to let Volcaries be that more offensive option with the Torch, I think.
I mean, it's a solid looking deck. I fucking hate bears though.
I mean, yeah. It's that bomb that just comes down. It's an 8/13.
How does the
I'm really
spirit map
surprised.
feel
I mentioned this to you earlier. I'm really surprised that nobody has been playing Pharaohgeist like this, where they just play the
Ursidin?
Comalis.
Oh.
They play the Comalis, they get the Nexus, they search the Pharaohgeist, and then they go Ursicle, Ursidin, Hibernation, Majursa, and it comes out as a lunar, solar, and then they just go boom over the top Pharaohgeist. Like, I don't know.
I think it's just too inconsistent.
Probably.
That does not sound like it's going to resolve all the time. Also, it doesn't win the game by itself. If they have a PTA set when you do that, you lose the game. In my opinion.
Well, that's the case. You could do it in a way where you hold the play, because you could just search for the piece, and then you search for the piece ahead of time with an Ursicle, and then you wait a turn so that you can go Din Hibernation in 1 turn, and then not use your normal, go into the Majursa, and then ascend over it. But it's just it's not that I think it would be good or not. It's mostly just I'm surprised I haven't seen anyone do it because you can.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it's just when someone brings something really crazy and annoying like that, usually it just steals games. Or it has the potential to.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just the last deck with bears, and it is as disgusting as it seems. So the next one. That's a lot of words on the right.
I don't think it's enough words. Can you tell me what those words say?
So this deck is Solar Mill, aka Battle Mill, aka Fair Mill, aka Ruminous, aka maybe sometimes, but not usually. Not with this version. Not anyway. Because this isn't the Ruminous OTK version. That's Nogs and Lead Circles and Tad Puff and Champion Balloon, but this is a little different. This is more legit list. This is a really interesting list. This is one I've been playing at locals a little bit because it's just been fun. the breeze of Zephyros, it can be poison tipped air, it can be tsunami. Apollos help you get into your Exaltus. Exaltus helps you get into Ruminous. Apollo can add Ruminous to hand. Plucky is a healing guy so that you don't have to play Kathmel, which is a good card, but Plucky is good in this is better in this scenario because Liar and Argo exist. Those cards help you win the battle with Ruminous. Soulbell exists because it is also good with Liar, and it special casts itself out, which means you can ascend Ruminous over it. It's a 4 defense. So if you have a Plucky with a Liar on it, and you Apollo hit a cow, now it's a 3/6, which is huge for a 1-drop. All those things with Humbust, where you're playing Humbust with Liar, Humbust protected for a turn, play Plucky, search Liar, play pay the Liar, play the Liar on the Plucky, turning it into a 5/3, mill your opponent for 2. Before that, you did Apollo to search for the Plucky, and that milled your opponent for 2. So now you're gaining advantage, and you're milling your opponent. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with this deck, and this deck does actually mill at a higher rate than you would expect. I have, I think, more consistently gotten my opponent down to a mill out position with this deck than I have with Mills Fargo sometimes. On Monday, I did get 3 mill outs though with Mills Fargo, so that was awesome. That deck is still really good at milling, but this one, where it's battle mill. Typically, when you play a mill deck, you are sort of playing on a different axis. Mills Fargo does play on the same axis as your opponent, but you play on the mill axis simultaneously. This one you're playing on the standard axis like the whole time. You're playing into that, but you are also able to take advantage of the mill aspect as an alternate win con. You can do that through Ruminous. I'm also realizing now I forgot to put the Bow of Apollo in. Because that, I mean, it is kind of a meme. Like, if I'm being really, really real, you probably don't need it. If I'm being honest.
I want it anyway.
However, slapping a bow on Ruminous and attacking with it has resolved way more often than you would think looking at this. And the most I think I've had a Ruminous mill for over the course of a game, over like 2 battles, I think I said this earlier, was 18. 18 cards is a lot of cards for 1 card to mill. And Ruminous was doing it. With the bow, with an Apollo up. So not only was I milling a lot, I was also healing 1, because that's the bow secret effect, is that it heals 1 spirit if you deal damage with the Bow of Apollo while you have Apollo enchanted. So that's
I did not know
cool.
he said that.
That's one of the really cool things that you can do with Plucky as well, is where you go like, Plucky, play the bow, heal 1 solar, go to battle, punch them for 1 spirit directly, heal another solar. So it can add up over the course of the game, which is actually pretty cool. But the main point is just so that Ruminous can mill a whole lot of cards all at once. Breeze of Zephyros doesn't need to be in the deck necessarily, although it is really good as a battle trick. We discussed that earlier on the Ruminous portion. Being able to buff Ruminous by 2/2 and put another spirit on it so that it can win battles. Same thing for the Lumaru. All of those things are really good. Obviously, triggering that on an Exaltus or a Plucky that has a Liar somewhere on the field is also really, really good. Same with Soulbell, because say you foretold this turn, and that Exaltus gets +3 and becomes a 6/2, and then you also have a Plucky that has a Liar on it, so that Exaltus is actually an 8/4, and then your opponent does something and puts you at. They're not gonna shield or Gorgons the Exaltus, but they go Argo to try and buff their Necruff to a 10 with a necklace, or their Guided 10 with a necklace. You could go Breeze of Zephyros, get it up to that 10 and still, at least trade, maybe even get a damage in if you decide to Nexus to it. There's like a lot of different things. It's like a really interesting battle trick that is available to you. The fact that you need to Nexus a Wind or a Solar can suck because it's the same issue as Alter, where you need that bank on the field. But 3 Lyre, Necklace, 3 Argo, 3 Apollo, you should have Nexus banks available. Soul Bell can also just be a Nexus bank if you special it out. So it's online a fair bit. It can also just be a PTA or a Tsunami instead. But this deck is also just really fun. So if this is a thing that you would be interested in, I highly recommend it. Put the bow in. I think my current build is playing 2 Plucky, 2 Lyre, 1 Bow, and I can't remember what. No, it might be 3 Plucky, 2 Lyre, and 1 Bow. That might be the setup I'm running right now. Either way, deck is really fun. Highly recommend it if you like that, like playing these guys. If you like the idea of Ruminous. Anyway, for the next one, we got Earth Mill. This is old. This is old. This is real
Old
deck.
school.
Panzer could be a Ardbud as a way to search. Humbust, or Viscerus. The idea here is that this is a Humbust Mill list. You are digging deep. You are trying to heal. Like, Panzer really does exist to heal your
Shout out to
Earth
PK.
spirits. What's that?
Shout out to PK. That's his favorite
PK?
Celestial.
Oh, true. PK Sparks. The idea here is that because you're playing Humbust and you're playing Avalanche, and you want to always be playing those cards together, and you're playing Golden Apple, you are pitching the cards from your hand or deck to the Underworld. So you want a way to try and, get that value back onto the board. The Giraflora gets those 1 costs back. The Gigaflora brings them back every turn. Can special ascend over the Giraflora. So you can go Giraflora, add a guy back to your hand. Gigaflora, your turn comes back around, just puts it back on the board. You don't have to pay for it. You just pay for the cost of playing the guy from the Underworld. You can recycle your Pandasin over and over again. This was the idea, I think, that the Elastronauts had around that time. This was a sort of like an inspiration from that, which was the Boltuga. It was like the Boltuga Eruption build, where you did the same general idea with Gigaflora and Giraflora to bring Pandasin back and recycle Eruption every turn.
Evil.
But in this case, you're doing it for Avalanche. Because you resolve 4 Avalanches is 20. That's 20 cards out of the opponent's deck. You're attempting to solve the efficiency and cost issues in this one a little bit with Panzer, because it can put the spirit back into your spirit deck, and a little bit with Vertilith as a way to get spirits back. Like I said, you can also play this Ardbud. You can also play it with Rummikole. So you have a few different ways to get into this. Is not very good. It's not a very good deck, I don't think. But it is very fun, and you could improve this by just using a bunch of different Earth cards as well, because they do allow you to do some pretty funny things with Avalanche. The other kind of fun Humbust Avalanche list that I had here was Lunar Phase Mill. I played this one actually at the beginning of Moonrise. And the idea here was that like a Voldust control actually is not bad as a strategy. Humbust on the field. You have Voldusk, you have Werepups, you have these like a handful of lunar guys that you can ascend into Salashade. The Humbust with the avalanches is definitely something you can do, but one of the things that this deck actually solved the problem of was Voldusk. The effect of Voldusk, whenever you play a lunar phase, heals a lunar spirit for you, but it can also get you card advantage, and that's the two things that Humbust needs if you're milling with like a Humbust, like an active Humbust strategy, is that you want card advantage. You need spirit recursion so that you can pay for all these things, and you have all of these, one cost runes, which means all of these are pretty, like, except for the some of the counter runes, they're all pretty efficient to use to mill out your opponent. And if you have Voldusk and Humbust on at the same time, you're able to like keep going, or get those or like refund the cost. If you have 2 Voldusk, then now you're getting 2 cards like per cast, or you're getting 2 spirits back, and now you're healing at like a rapid rate. Same idea with 2 Humbust. 2 Humbust, and you play a New Moon to like out their guy. That's 4 cards, and their guy is gone. That's not bad. And Voldusk is a 5, especially at the beginning of Moonrise when Lunar Aggro was really popular. Nabi was not able to get over Voldusk, neither was Doppelgator. It was like the only thing that they had that in the deck that could deal with it was like Zeus, Eddie. It was like Eddie and Zeus, and like a Void. Those are like the 3 cards that allowed them to be able to get over Voldusk. So this deck was actually like kind of hilariously effective during that time, although this really came together at the end of that. It was really funny because of how effective it was, but it was the deck is just really fun because you're like Voldusk control is also just really fun.
Maybe it will be good one day. Just print more good lunar phases.
I've been saying if lunar phases had a way to out back row, I think they would actually be good. Also, if Voldusk was ever meta, Spoiled Fruit and Poison Nectar would just go crazy on this deck.
Those cards are ridiculous.
2 1-cost counter runes that negate the effect and destroy the card is so wild. It's so good. And the fact that they see no play is even crazier, honestly.
I mean, Spoiled Fruit sees some play. Whenever Heal starts popping back up, people side a couple of it, but
I mean, a good pilot doesn't really care though.
Oh, okay, my bad. I guess I'll take the Spoiled Fruit out of my side deck.
Yeah. Just do that. Don't take it out. Take it out. I want to play this again. This is a fun deck. Anyway, this deck is really fun. Whenever these cards make their way into, Clash, if Lifestream isn't already in there, and this just becomes like unplayable, give it a shot. It's probably going to be pretty fun. Past Lunar Phase mill though, there's some ideas for some stuff. There's
I mean, there's cards.
Yeah, like there's a high potential for a lunar mill to be a thing.
I mean, half of Salashade is mill, so like you're halfway there.
Even past Salashade being a miller, it is just a good body if you can get a bunch of their guys in the underworld. The fact that Spectaris champion exists, Spectaris itself is already a good body. Nabi is really good when Solar or Lunar are not like the meta picks, because it becomes effectively a 6 in those scenarios. Or if you protected your board with a Tsunami even, and then you drop a Nabi, you can just go straight into a Doppelganger. That's also really good. Werepup for Like a Void. And this could be either one, honestly. I mean, if Champ Like a Void ever comes off the list, this gets automatically even better. Mills Fargo also gets better with Champ Like a Void, something I never mentioned.
Yeah.
That that in that deck is extremely good. It's also really good against that card, funny enough, because it's like you got the tools to mill out the ways for them to see that stuff. But having the Werepup and the Like a Void to be able to go into a Salashade on a following turn is very powerful. To use on a later turn and trigger Salashade multiple times. I mean, a Werepup. I mean, before it got banned, Werepup, or it's with Salashade on the field, Werepup into Full Moon for Champ Like a Void for 2 bodies was mill 12.
Yep. That shit goes hard. I was saying the same thing about Ignector in my Hestia list, even though it wasn't a good list. Just getting anything that like special cast 2 bodies out goes crazy, because Salashade doesn't say when a player casts an Alestral parentheses S. So even if you summon them all at the same time, like with the extra 2 Werepups off Like a Void, it counts every individual Alestral.
Yeah. Just like Humbust sees every rune cast, Humbust just has a hard limit of what it can see. So if like 2 players only use Argo on their turn and then they cast the artifacts, like if one of the players follows up with a shield, that shield doesn't like mill anything for the Humbust. Salashade doesn't have that like restriction, so no matter how many summons or how many casts there are, like it sees everything.
Yep.
Your opponent has to mill for each one of those that it sees. And like Lunar, like we have right here, Lunar has a lot of ways. Like they have good bodies, but they also have a lot of ways to get special casts, special ascends. They have a lot of ways to get bodies out on the field that you can actually, in theory, I haven't like I said, I haven't put this together yet. It's been an idea that I've thought about and never really had a chance to sort of put together yet. But it is a concept that could actually be kind of nasty. It might be something I try and Clash, because I think all of these cards are actually in the game. So we'll see. Maybe you, dear viewer, are going to be the one who cooks with this.
I was about to say, I ain't playing no goddamn Lunar. But yeah, maybe somebody who's watching this might.
If you do, put it in the comments. I want to see. I want to see the list. Show me the list. I don't care if this is set 10. Like, show me the list.
True.
Ping me. Anyway, I mean, by then we're going to be doing some other insane shit. I'm sure. I mean, live stream is. Oh, wait a second. Hold. This is Mill.
Wait,
this is kind of Mill. Hold on.
It's Mill.
I mean, it's Mill. It's a little
so
different.
I think the strategy with this one is, so like imagine like a Mills Fargo deck. You are casting, a Humbust or something. That's a kind of a passive way to play. The most active way to mill your opponent, I think, is actually you just hand them a Frost deck. If they're playing Frost, they're choosing to mill themselves. Like, even more efficient than the Humbust, they'll just do it themselves.
That is true. If your opponent casts an Indus form, they just mill 2.
It's just that easy.
If they look, you want to know the fun thing? I didn't mention this before, but the fun thing about, and it's not even in this picture, Asked Rabbit doesn't say the text that it says on the card. It actually says, your opponent mills themselves for 1. They just mill it into their hand instead. That's
true. That's true.
That is what the real text on Asked Rabbit says. So Asked Rabbit is a bad card. You heard it here first. But yeah, this was actually just like a meme back in like Frostfall for the Frostfall self-mill casino, where you can just you can in theory, end on a board that is insane with a bunch of 2-cost guys and big dudes. Or you could just end on a board with like a Tadflow.
I think I saw
After
something. I think I saw that deck. It was like a Jayak creation, something like that, right?
I mean they might have done one. I know I did. I know I did this like one of the first decks I ended up ever building in this game. And it was terrible, but it was so much fun. It was so much fun. Oh my gosh. Normal cast Tadflow. Or well, actually, hold on. We go Nectar, 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 Nectar. More Frost-like informs. Add more stuff. Then you drop some Leaf using all the more Frosts that you add to hand. Draw a whole bunch of cards. Drop a Tadflow or a Cryoling or whatever, and then like that Tadflow, you go Avalanche, mill a bunch of cards. Do more Avalanche, Avalanche, Avalanche. Tadflow into whatever you have in hand, and then Enfrostix, bring back the Tadflow, go into another 2-cost guy, another Enfrostix again, get it back with Keone, put the Tadflow back on there with the Enfrostix, go into another guy. Like you end your first turn with like 3 spirits left, but you just ended on a board with like 4 2-costs. It was so much fun.
I don't
But
play
yeah,
Frost either. Fuck that.
Oops. Oh wait, a little skip. The last thing is live stream.
God, these cards are so sick.
They are so sick. Like, there's even more context too from the stuff that's been revealed, but these are just what we put here. Humbust is a 5 now. It needs Liar, but like it's a 5 now. It's not just a 2-1 anymore or a 1-2 anymore. It is a 5-3. It could be a beater. With the Corvishine could be a 7-4. And then you just keep the Humbust in defense as a 5. That's crazy. On Foretell +1, Apollo is 4. Royal Otto, that's 4. With the Corvishine, that's 7. If your opponent has multiple attackers, Royal Otto, 7, 7, 7. Like that's like you're going to mill your opponent out at an insane rate. Humburst is a 6-2. Corvishine with the Liar, it's a 7-4. Humburst is an 8-4. I mean, are you even milling or are you just beating the shit out of your opponent? I swear, like this stuff is crazy.
I mean, it looks like whoever was focusing on these really like looked at the weakness of the old Humbust stuff and took note of it. Like, we give them good stats, let them be able to stand on their own, and this is just such consistent milling.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's Champion of Apollo. What does Apollo like to do in Foretell? What are we milling? What is the trigger to mill? Foretell. This Humburst, special ascend over any Humbust, so you can play the OG as well. So you can still, if you do play the OG Humburst, Humbust, you can still get your value off of playing, just putting the Apollo into play, just putting the Liar into play. And then, you drop something and you just turn that OG Humbust into a Humburst, and if you have the Apollo, you just mill 4 every turn. No trigger, like you just do it.
No cost either.
That's 4 cards every turn is 10. If you do it once per turn for 10 turns and do nothing else, then you win the game. Or well, not 10. What is it, like
9,
8 actually, if you're counting draw for turn.
Yeah.
So it's even faster than that technically, but like 4 at a time is not that crazy. It's a better rate than anything else that we have gotten in one go, with the exception of OG Humburst. The fact that it is top 4 of their deck, just period, Um, that is um basically a free effect. The only cost is putting the Apollo on the board and the hum burst on them. That's the only cost.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you want a minimum, that's like 3 spirits. 3 spirits for 4. Obviously, that rate's not good, but you don't have to do anything for it. If it lives for 2 turns, that's 3 spirits now for 8 spirits because it's the same body, it's the same spirits. They just get more value over time. So now that's 8 spirits, that's 12 spirits, that's 16 spirits. Uh, because it's special ascends, you have another hum bust. You get 2. Each one of those can use the effect. So now you're doing 8 per turn. That's really strong. Um, these are fire, so I mean I don't have my hands on these cards. Technically, they're not even real until I get my hands on. But there's a reality where you could, in theory, hypothetically, do like a Hestia to get out a Humbust, and then normal cast another one, and then start doing your Apollo stuff. Mill, you know, like for 1 Apollo and 2 Humbust, that's going to be 8 off of 1 use of Apollo. And then you hit like a Humburst or 2 Humburst. Both of those turn into Humburst. Another 8 off the top. That's 16. 16 cards off the top plus 5. 21 cards out of their deck on turn 1. I mean, we love fairy tale lands here, so I mean, it is a thing that could potentially happen.
I mean,
Whether or
Solar
not that's
is
the
a
way to
very
play.
consistent deck. I mean, if you're foretelling, you get to stack your draws.
Yep. And typically you have, additional effects as a part of that. So you're adding, like, from the Apollo effect, you're adding any solar. Humbust becomes a solar when it's foretold, so you can add that too. If you're seeing, if you're playing the Royal Waddle, that's also plussing you when it finds a solar guy. If you're playing this with the Royal Waddle, which I think you do, like I'm pretty sure you do, because it's a thing that can foretell more than once in a turn. Whether or not it even like resolves, I don't think that matters as much. Like I think the foretells themselves are the thing that are more important. The thing that I see when I see this is like Humbust is always getting crazy value. If you have 2, you're getting unreal value, because foretelling is not typically you spending spirits on a single one-time use effect, but rather something that can be used over multiple turns without needing to invest too much. Like that can like easily turn into just like super efficient stacking value.
Yeah.
The Humburst, obviously, like we said, you just do it. So it just, like Ruminous and Lumaru, like it just adds up over time. Like, these cards are so sick.
I mean, it is a different direction for me. I mean, it's clearly a different direction for everybody for Mill, because there hasn't been a foretell equals Mill.
Yeah.
Before, I have been turboing into Salashade, because Salashade is like the best thing you can do in Mill right now. I don't think I've really even considered throwing a Salashade in here, because I just want to be foretelling, and it's exciting to have this whole new direction to be going in.
Yeah. Like the fact that it seems like really solid as a deck. I mean, for the lifespan of this game until I mean, God forbid we ever reach like the point of this game is Yu-Gi-Oh, like modern day Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's just like hyper combos. Like what we would be seeing is like good stats should always probably matter. The fact that this can become a 5 is really good, either defensively or offensively. Um, Same thing with Humburst being like a 6-2. It being a 2 kind of makes me a little sad because Cryoblast is a decent card, although I don't think many people will be playing it unless it's hard to even say that Frost would play it because the Frost cards in Livestream do look really good.
I mean, the
And if
Frost cards
Frost
there
is
look
really
really
good,
good. The I think what is it? The Magneros for
yeah,
Aphrodite is a 3
Aphrodite.
defense. If you're on Lakagon or Cap Regal or whatever, those are all not getting hit with it. The Dionysus cards we've seen, the Dionysus Searcher is a 4/4.
Yep,
You're not cryoblasting that thing.
yep. So there's like a lot of things that can live it. Like the card is still good, but in the scenario where people have to contend with like guys that don't have low defense stats, maybe some decks side it. But like if Frost is even like more representative because some of those Frost decks looks so crazy. I don't even know.
Jeez.
Like if a lot of people are playing it, then like why even waste like your deck space on it if it's not going to do anything? So there's a real possibility that Humburst doesn't even get cryoblasted unless this deck just is in like way more insane than people think. And I think it's flying under the radar a little.
Not
But we'll
for
see.
us. We're on this shit.
Oh, well, I mean, that's true. That's real and true. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We're not really going into the live stream too much today because like it's not out yet. It's not really real. Like there's still more Firestorm to go.
I mean, if you don't mind, can we do our yapping on the next slide?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, so, I think that it's always fun to guess what's coming up in the future, but you know, there's no substitute for just getting your hands on it, getting some testing in.
Oh yeah. And another like and having the cards in hand, being able to read them and put them into decks physically, where you can like do your test hands, you can like see how the rates feel, what the cards, you see how everything comes out feeling. I mean, it does make a little bit of a difference. Like you get proxies, you know, at the end of the day, it's fine. I'm too lazy to do that shit. I'm sorry.
Dog,
But,
if
you know,
I'm
if someone handed
proxying
me a
to
deck of
play
proxies,
anything, I'm
I'd
doing
try it.
Lakagon.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, all this stuff coming up looks so sick.
God, that's
I will say, like, one of the benefits right now of Mill, and the reason I really do like it is, like, there are a lot of game plan decks. The only one really that that does not have like a big guy game plan that they have to consider is like 5s, where it's like the Viscerus, like Lycovoid, Werepup, like sometimes they run pigs, like that sort of stuff. Where they're less focused on trying to like get out of Pin-Terror line. They're less focused on like they're not running bears. They're not playing Blizztrix. They don't have like big guy like real big like 3 drops that they're trying to push into like and Titan or something along those lines. There's a lot since there are a lot of decks that have like game plan in like right now in Firestorm. Like Mill does feel good. It feels less good now that Like a Void Champ is banned. You know, probably deserved going temporarily for now. But like while it was legal, Mill was, you know, kind of eating. You could mill out their Like a Void Champ line stuff. You get a Salashade out, and then they try to go into Like a Void Champ because maybe your Salashade isn't big yet. Maybe it's a 5. And then they just like end up milling 9 cards. Yeah, no, they're not getting over it anymore. That we're cooking. We love Like a Void Champ, and we love special casting. when we have the Salashade up, and there's like a lot of that. So like there's a lot of like stuff that Mill just plays really well into right now, which is I really playing it at this point, and I think that's going to be doubly true in the next format for live stream when so many decks I think will become more or less like game plan decks, where people want to be doing something better than like a fives strategy, because there are so many things that are just straight up better in live stream than just playing fives.
God, I'm so ready for fives to be gone. I think
Yeah,
I think live stream is gonna be that.
It's gonna be that guy. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna upend. It's gonna feel like a whole new game again. We did get a little bit of that with Like a Void Champ. I do think it enabled like some creative deck building where people weren't just playing fives. Like some decks were sort of just playing fives with Champ because they were just like tempoing out like a lot of bodies and making it hard for you to deal with them all. I think it's also true though that it like did enable creative deck building. That pig stuff was a good meta response. It's like it's still good. Obviously, it's still good right now. But it's like less good than it was when Champ was a thing, because like now you can't just like pig run over a little guy, get the 7 and over the 6, and now you just punish them for playing it. But I don't know. I've been playing Mill, not pigs, so all I can say is it feels really good when you mill out a. It feels really good when you mill out a Majursa from the opponent's deck, or you mill out all their Ursidins, and now they have to seed the Majursa in Hard Ascend while you are pushing over all of their little bears with fives, or like or just like countering them with Argos and stuff.
Mill fucks.
It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend it. Pick it up. We posted a lot of deck lists already.
Yeah, I mean it's with Clash being out, it is literally free to test it out. I don't know if Mill has ever topped a big event until yesterday, or not. What, today's Wednesday?
2 days ago.
Yeah, 2 days ago. And you've got access to that list card for card in Clash.
That is true. Both versions, I guess, because I didn't show the side deck here.
They don't need the
watch
sauce yet.
the Mill deck profile on this channel from for the deck list on there. Ignore the magnetic force field, but the side deck with the
actually magnetic force field was the only side deck card you mandatory gotta play.
True, except it's also not in Clash yet.
If you're side decking in Clash, hit me up.
But yeah, I mean, like I mentioned in that video, one of the things you can do with like the Mills Fargo list, like right now at the very least, you can do a game 3 pivot, or like into a fives list where you pivot into sort of like a burn fire artifact where you swap the Humbusts out for Nekruff, and you swap the Salashades out for a Krakatuga, and then you throw in 2 Eruptions, and you can really mess up your opponent with like effect burn. As unfun as it is, like swapping like the ability to mill your opponent for the ability to burn your opponent just makes me so sad. But
burn is cringe.
Burn is cringe as fuck. Win. Yeah, Eruption is a messed up card. That card needs to go. Krakatuga is also messed up, but
what's up, my Krakatugas?
The fact that it doesn't make you expend for effect, or like for cost, and it makes you expend for effect.
That is really shitty.
Like,
let me Gorgons
it gets Gorgons, and it's like there's just no punish. That's crazy.
It's like, okay, I Gorgons, okay, so I burn myself for 2 instead of 3. Miserable.
Oh, what does Vesuvatuga do? Hold on, I got it right here. I actually pulled from my prize packs. I pulled one. I pulled the full art.
Oh. Huh?
Spend 1 fire to burn them for 2.
Wait,
Yeah, that's
wait.
pretty good too.
You pulled a full art?
Yeah, full art Vesuvatuga.
Mark also pulled a full art.
I mean, he pulled the divine pack. That.
Oh, no, he pulled a full art and a divine pack.
What full art did he pull? Do you remember?
Majersa?
That's right. Did my
That box was
All those-
loaded. God damn.
was that from one box?
Yeah.
What the hell?
I
Holy.
didn't get the Hollow Spirit, so it might have just replaced the Hollow Spirit.
I think I got. Did I get 2 hollow spirits?
What?
Yeah, Flairmine and Leviathan.
So that box had 2 full arts, 2
Okay,
Hollow Spirits, and a God pack.
If all that did indeed come from one box.
I watched him do it. He picked up the box, shuffled it in his hands, turned back around, and started handing it out.
Imagine one of us got the God pack, both full arts, both spirits.
Jesus.
Oh my God, I would have. If it was me, I would have probably just died, like on the spot. My the deck profile would have just been like my dead body on the ground and like the cards all. That would have just been it.
That's fine.
I mean,
I think that still would have been a very interesting deck profile. Us just like raining cards on you. Now, would we?
That's the next one.
Is this at the card shop or the next one? Oh, you're gonna die at the Braves game?
Hell yeah. Yeah, I hope they don't ban Rise at that point.
What we need to do, we get the cards, we run onto the field, and then we start explaining Mill to one of the players.
We run out there with the deck box, start doing the deck profile on the field.
Yeah. How much of a deck profile can you get through before you get tackled by security?
I'm only taking commons to that one.
That's fair. That's fair. I think
I'm not
that's
losing my shiny cards.
That's reasonable, I think. Okay. 800 likes on this video, and Mike is going to go do his deck profile on the field at a Braves game. 3,000 likes, and he's going to do it naked.
We'll see. You gotta plan it out, you know. You gotta figure out the logistics. I gotta call ahead to a different stadium so they don't think I'm going to the Braves one.
Oh, okay. False trail.
Anyway, that's basically it. That's all we. That's the entirety of Mill over the course of however long.
Very.
3 hours. So that is every Mill card broken down as deep as we can get it. That's every different style of Mill deck that we currently have thought of at this point. There's other ones out there, I know. So, you know, don't tell me you forgot about this one or whatever. Or you forgot about this card. These were example deck lists. Make whatever you want.
True.
Except for Mills Fargo, that's base as fuck. Play that. It's actually really good. Also, Mills Bear Go, technically speaking, is also really good. It's just the same deck with a Bear Bomb.
Don't play that one.
But yeah, against me, against other people. But yeah. Now that you know how Mill works, now you know how to build it. Now you know what the theory is. Now you know how to play it. Keep all that stuff in mind when you play Mill, and you will go far. Because Mill is actually very good in this game. Sometimes, most of the time, it hasn't been better than just dropping a 5 body. But, you know.
We'll get there.
Now it is as good as that, and even better because people play like cards bricks in their deck that they need to make other cards work. And if those cards go, then those cards don't work anymore.
All right. Well, I think that's about it. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, report for harassment. Shout out to Jacob. For as you can see in the bottom right or bottom left.
Also,
He
Florida
signed-
Ren.
Also, Orlando Wren. Shout out to both of them just signing off the rights to their likenesses to me forever. I do have it in writing. They both agreed to it. And that's pretty sick.
Yeah.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.